ставши на коліно, своє полкове знамено. Дивлюсь на нього я востаннє, у нез'ясованій журбі, всю кров мою, всі скитання, воно вібрало у собі. Всю кров
Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячий хотар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Ті, хто воде всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там пивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар. Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
О, бля! Игорь!
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 331 of the news, and it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the war in Ukraine here on day 331. And to start off tonight, we have incredible news from around the world as new support packages have been announced, and within them are unbelievable things that we didn't think would be sent over in the quantity they're being sent over. And so real quick, let me go and reset my Google Maps real quick. And also, let me say this real quick, just to clarify a little bit of news that we covered last night that turned out to not be the case. We saw some pictures last night at the beginning of last stream, and this is the topic of it, that an Apache may be in Ukraine. We actually found out that that Apache attack helicopter is actually a Katterbach Army Air Base inside of Germany, and that helicopter and the patch that was on the helmet, for some reason, are in Germany. We still don't know why, but I just wanted to clarify that before we moved on to tonight's news. Now with that in mind, let's get into all of the international news and support we have today. Starting off, the United States has announced another whopping $2.5 billion support package, one of the largest that we've ever consigned to Ukraine, and I gotta say, it is truly impressive. So real quick, let me pull this one up for y'all. $2.5 billion to Ukraine. Not billion, we want the billion. So we're gonna go to Reuters, and let's take a look at the list that we have here. So the package includes 59 Bradley fighting vehicles, 90 Stryker armored personnel carriers, 53 mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles, or an MRAP, that's what it stands for, and 350 high-mobility multipurpose wheeled vehicles, which are Humvees, the U.S. Department of Defense said in a statement. The 59 Bradleys included come after a previous 50 announced earlier in January, and so the total Bradleys that we have now sent to Ukraine in terms of aid will be up around 109. A very impressive number, and enough that if you were trying to equip a Russian battalion tactical group with nothing but Bradleys, you would be able to field 3 entire battalion tactical groups with the amount of Bradleys that we're sending. So very impressive and unbelievable to think the raw number of Bradleys that we're starting to send over. Not only that, but according to Reuters, there will also be some additional ammunition. We can see that in this package there will be more HIMARS ammunition, or HIMARS. Also, really interesting, something brand new we have never seen before. An Avenger air defense system. Have you ever heard about the Avenger, Matthew?
I haven't.
Well, let me show you what this thing is. The Avenger air defense system. It is a Humvee with stingers on the back of it.
Well, I like it. I like it.
Yeah, really neat little system. There's really nothing more to add to this thing. It's just a Humvee with a mounted system on the back that can fire off 8 stingers at a time. So really interesting, really neat to know the Ukrainians will be getting some of these. And of course, these can counter anything, but I'm sure that the Ukrainians will be eyeballing these for cruise and ballistic missile protection, as it's been shown that manpads like the ones that will be used on the Avenger anti-aircraft system right here can effectively shoot down cruise missiles at a very decent rate as long as the gunner is able to line up the shot properly before it's fired. So, all in all, pretty nice to know we'll be sending 20 of those. Not only that, we saw tens of thousands of artillery rounds will be sent over, most likely 155mm shells for the M777s, and around 2,000 anti-armor rockets. They didn't really go into any detail here on Reuters as to what these rockets are. We're assuming they may be TOW-2Bs or some variant of the TOW anti-tank guided missile, so that way the Bradleys will have some to work off of. And you also have to remember, we've rarely ever seen anti-tank guided missiles miss in this war. I think we've seen, out of all the Ukrainian footage ever, maybe 3 Stugnas miss out of the entirety of the war, and I think we've seen maybe a TOW in action here and there and some Milans. And out of all of them, we rarely ever see any of them miss, maybe about 3 times in total over the course of the war. So hypothetically, if these are all TOW-2Bs, that is 2,000 times that the Ukrainians will have to be able to blow up Russian tanks. 1 shot, 1 kill. So really impressive to think that they're getting 2,000 more chances to kill a Russian tank. Also, the United States has committed more than $27.4 billion in security assistance to Ukraine since Russia invaded February last year. This actually kind of blew me away a little bit because that is a much smaller number than I actually thought it would be all added together. Only $27.4 billion. That's half of Russia's annual military budget, which that makes it sound big, but Russia's military budget is very sad to say the least. So I gotta ask you this, man. I know you're probably busy as hell with that live chat right now, but did you think it was going to be that low?
I honestly think it's kind of high because 27.4 billion, that's a pretty good bit of money right there. Like, For example, what do we spend? 700 billion annually on our defense here in the domestic.
Something like that. But also, here's the context I would like to give. That's $27.4 billion over nearly the course of an entire year that we've spent for Ukraine to fight the war against the Russians and for us to not get involved at all. If we multiplied $27.4 billion over the course of 10 years, well, actually, let's do this. How much did the war in Iraq cost? How much did the war in Iraq cost? And let's see, it cost totally $757 billion to be in Iraq. And how long were we in Iraq? How long?
I think it was like 17 or 20 years or something like that.
I think it was more like 10 or so. Let's see. This was in, when did the U.S. officially leave Iraq? Concluded 2021. So let me go up here real quick, because there's a point where we withdrew for the large part somewhere in the 2010s, and we just had a couple of people remaining until the Iraqis kicked us out. So we can see right here 2011. So from 2003 to 2011, about 8 years, and we spent $757 billion over 8 years. So let's divide that by 8. So 757 divided by, wait, hang on, 757 divided by 8. That's $95 billion per year that we were spending in Iraq. And that's compared to...
Wait, say that again?
$95 billion a year in Iraq.
Good gosh.
That's how expensive it is for the U.S. war machine to fight a war. We are funding the Ukrainian military at nearly $25 billion a year to fight a war that we don't even have to get involved in beyond the supply side of things. We lose no men. We have really... no massive stake in terms of our losses and us directly having to get involved at the cost of $25 billion per year. And when you put it in that perspective, this is not only helping Ukraine to survive and helping them to maintain their sovereignty, this is ending up being very beneficial for the United States, because we are practically spending peanuts compared to what we had to spend per year in Iraq alone. And so, I mean, like, hell, the numbers speak for themselves right there, and really impressive. So with that,
although I will play devil's advocate for a second, I will say that in Iraq, that was something that we were doing directly for our own benefit. Ukraine is kind of like an indirect benefit to us, and not necessarily exactly the same thing. But at the same time, that really doesn't like match up to me. We should be spending more on Ukraine, in my opinion.
Well, I think there's a lot that benefits the United States directly in Ukraine, and that was actually laid out in a video on this channel that y'all can go watch. It's about 9 minutes and 30 seconds long, and it says why America is supporting Ukraine. It may be a little bit different than you think, and I just lay out all of the strategic reasons as to why we are supporting Ukraine, because it is a little fairly important to us, especially in trying to corner the Russians. But with that, we're now going to be moving on from that news. Impressive, a $2.5 billion spending package. Incredible, I gotta say. So we're now going to be moving on into Britain, where we saw today the British government announced that they'll be sending 600 brimstones to Ukraine. This is on top of the 2,000 TOW missiles that will also be sent. And there you have a picture of a brimstone. Whenever I see these things, it's nearly comical how they're always used. It's like some kind of like a half-done like launcher that they're launching these things off of, but they are really good.
Yeah.
We've seen that the Ukrainians had some of these earlier on in the war. They used them up from what we know, but they were able to inflict some pretty sizable losses on Russian forces in single instances with brimstones. So another 600 of them, much like the TOW2, is giving the Ukrainians another 600 chances to take out Russian tanks. Incredibly good. We're now going to be moving on out of Britain and on over into Denmark, because the Danish actually surprised everyone today. And it's really sad, I'd have to say, because they were supposed to send some of their own Archer SPGs. And in case y'all don't know, the Archer SPG, this is what it looks like. And it's a Swedish-made artillery system. The Danish bought some of their own, really more so the turret, the truck they did not get. And today, Matthew, they were supposed to send 7, and they flat out refused to send 7.
Really?
Yeah, instead they said they're going to send 19 of them.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
what was that, like a total like trying to gotcha question?
Yeah, that was a gotcha. The Danish really went above and beyond. They're sending over 19, I'm sorry, they're not Archers, they're Caesars. Caesar SPGs, which is incredibly impressive. I'm, of course, a massive fan, and for some reason I forgot the SPG. I thought for some reason it was the Archer. We're about to get to that in a minute anyways. That's also in tonight's news. But the Caesar SPG, made by France, the Danish have a decent amount of them. They're sending 19 of them. out of the 6 that they were originally supposed to send. Absolutely unbelievable, especially for a smaller country like Denmark to send. This is a massive supply package, a support package that they're giving to Ukraine, and really something. Not only that, the Caesar SPG, by my definition of a successful and top-notch effective artillery piece, this thing is really going above and beyond with its ability to shoot and scoot, and also its, I guess you could say, just all-around ergonomics. It is a very impressive vehicle, and the fact that the Ukrainians will be getting 19 more of them is wild, to say the least. You can form out of 19 of them, let's see, 4, 8, 12, 16, almost 5 more artillery batteries worth of these Caesars, which is nuts. I can't even tell you how crazy that is. So we're now going to be moving on from that and into Stockholm, where we saw also the Swedes are, of course, providing their usual support, and they're still trying to get into NATO, unfortunately. But moving on from that, there was something today that I did not expect to come around the corner. Of course, the archers are expected. Several archers, something like 4 to 5 of them will be sent to Ukraine. You can see a picture of them down there. Really cool SPG. But what's really blown me away is that they're going to be sending 50 CV-90s.
Wow.
The CV-90 infantry fighting vehicle. Let me show this to y'all, because this thing, I'm a really big fan of it. This is the Stridsvagn 90, I believe is what it's called. The Stridsforden 90. This is the Swedish version of, I guess you could say, the equivalent to a BMP-2 or a Bradley infantry fighting vehicle for the United States. They are incredibly interesting as an armored personnel carrier. They do not have any built-on or additional anti-tank guided missile launcher. However, they do have a massive 40mm Bofors gun that really, I guess you could say, as a main caliber gun, except for the BMP-3, outmatches every Western armored personnel carrier's main gun. It beats out the Bradley's 25mm Bushmaster. It beats out the British 30mm Rardin. It beats out the German 20mm on their Martyrs, and also, I believe, I'm not really sure about the Pumas. I'm not really sure if there are a lot of Pumas to really make that worth a consideration, but this is absolutely impressive to hear that 50 of these will be sent, considering, if we look at the number here publicly listed on Wikipedia, there's only been 1,300 of these things made nearly. So, kind of wild. Also, it looks like Wikipedia has changed the layout of their webpage, and I don't know if I like this. I kind of
like that.
You like it?
No, I don't. I like the old version.
I don't really like that much. Go back to the old Wikipedia. They changed this overnight. But still, an impressive armored personnel carrier. And from what we know, the armor protection on this thing is not that bad either. It may be able to tank an RPG 7-shot and keep running, which is something that is a little questionable with the Bradley, especially on the sides. We're not really sure if a Bradley can survive that kind of hit, even with the upgrades that's endured over the decades, but this thing supposedly can, although we've never seen that tested in real life, and we'll now see if it can hold up to that kind of punishment in Ukraine. With that, we're now moving on from the impressive Swedish support, and we're now going to be moving to a meeting that's been alluded to a lot, and a lot of our viewers have been talking about this a load. The Ramstein meeting. Everyone's been waiting. Everyone's been wanting to hear what's going to come out of the Ramstein meeting. We actually have some infographics today that I found on the internet that said that the weapons to be announced are already known. So, we got M89 and M982 Excalibur shells. Of course, the Ukrainians already have those, so it appears they'll just be getting more of them. The Archer, and then in the next slide, we have the Brimstone. Of course, we already covered that. Let's see here. We have all the good stuff that America's sending, and pretty much everyone else as well, because you can see that the British are sending 14 Challengers? Huh, I thought they were only sending 10. It appears that they're now sending 14. We can send them 30 AS-90s? That's a lot. Wait, that's a lot more than what we heard before. 600 Brimstones, 200 BMPs? How in the world are the British sending BMPs? They don't have any.
Looks like they're sending GLSDB ammunition. And maybe, but certainly. That's an interesting wordage there.
Maybe, but certainly. That's like saying yes, but kind of not. Let's see, 14 Leopard 2s from Poland, the A4 variant most likely, 200 Senators, Someone actually said we covered that earlier. Believe it or not, sometimes packages get sent multiple times. So there were some senators sent before. There's some senators getting sent now. The Canadians are also sending another NASAMS air battery, which will bring the Ukrainian number up to about, I think, 5 or 4. We're not really sure because the 4th one is kind of in like limbo. We don't really know if it exists or doesn't. So it's somewhere around 3 or 4 that they currently have. With the additional one, it'll be around 4 to 5. 100 Bradleys, of course. 100 M113s will also be sent. 18 M109s will also be sent. Fairly decent SPG. 250 M117s, M1117s. And if I remember correctly, and let me make sure I got the designation right, the M1117 is not what I was thinking it was. That looks a lot like a VAB. Wow, that thing is weird. So apparently this thing is only used and made by the United States. I have never seen this thing before. This is entirely new to me, and it looks literally just like a French VAB. It just looks like an American variant of it.
Somewhat. I'm trying to remember what a VAB looks like.
Here, I'll pull it up for you real quick. The VAB APC, right here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it looks pretty close.
Yeah, it looks a lot like a VAB. I mean, really,
it's not as duck-like.
Nah, it's not as duck-like. It's got a much smaller windshield profile than this one does, but they look very similar. They're almost, to me, at least in terms of what they're probably capable of doing, it looks like they would almost be comparable. But still, really interesting little vehicle. Never even seen or heard of those before, so that's really neat to know that they'll be sending them. What else do we have on the list? 100 Strikers, need to know. Another 138 Humvees. The ground launch small diameter bomb, but the notation over here is maybe but certainly, so keep that in mind. 336 105mm howitzers. Don't really know where those are coming from. A Patriot air defense battery, plus another one certainly in the near future. 6 NASAMs. So actually, there's a lot more NASAMs than we thought. There's going to be around, golly, like, man, gee, golly, mister. There's going to be about 7 of them or 8 of them in Ukraine. 18 RSZOSs. 40 AMX 10 RCs, which we've heard about before, and maybe more to come, up to about 60. The Bastion armored vehicle. What? Bastion armored vehicle? Hang on. Oh, what? I have got to be honest with you all, I've never heard of this vehicle before. It looks pretty cool, though.
Which country is it from?
It's a French vehicle.
Huh. Yeah, it kind of had like a French little design to it. I was thinking, if I had to take a guess, I would say France.
Oh, yeah, it is definitely a French vehicle. So they're sending several of those? Let's see the list again. How many? Undisclosed number. And then there will also be an Iris-T air defense battery going in there. From the Danish, there will be some Caesars, and more promised by the French. 40 Martyrs will be coming from Germany. Another Patriot will also be coming from Germany. 3 Iris-Ts will be sent, and 3 radars. 2 more radars from the Germans. 16 Zuzannas will be sent by a country that they've abbreviated as DEN-ODK. So I don't know if that's some kind of a Scandinavian group alliance or something that's sending that, because the Zuzannas, I believe, are from the Czech Republic or Slovakia. We can also see that from some country, I don't even know what jumble of letters that is, there will be 120 T-72M tanks sent to Ukraine, another Patriot battery from the Netherlands, 50 CV-90s from Sweden, 155mm Archers, 12 of them from Sweden, let's see, and more Danas, about 26 to 30 of them, and then finally 10 more FH-70 howitzers from Estonia. So an impressive amount of support that just came out of this announcement at Ramstein, and really unbelievable to think that the Ukrainians will be getting all of that here probably within the next few weeks or a month. And that is why a lot of people are starting to say that with this massive influx of modern equipment and modern abilities, the Ukrainians must be going on the offensive sometime soon. And that is, of course, the title of tonight's stream. The Ukrainians probably will be going on the offensive. We see that the Russians are dying they're literally dying in the Bachmut area by the hundreds a day. They're not gaining any ground. It doesn't appear that they are going to be making any kind of discernible progress, because right now it seems that the Russians' aim and goal is a little confused, but initially it was, we're going to take all of Ukraine, and then they switched it for a couple of months to, we're just going to take all of the Donbass and save the Russian-speaking people down there, and now they have gone to an entirely different line of speech, again, the old one, where we're going to take all of Ukraine, is what they're saying. So, considering that they're hardly taking Donetsk at all, and they're really dying over a very small town of Bachmut, they haven't even made it to Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, Konstantinivka, or any other major cities like Pokrovsk, it appears that they may not be able to do that. So, I think the Ukrainians will be going on the offensive soon. Not only that, I've been able to debunk something that a lot of y'all are probably thinking and talking about, and maybe even asking about in the live chat, although I haven't been able to see much. There is a rumor going around right now that the Russians are going to be sending another 700,000 soldiers into this war, and they're going to attack from all directions and crush the Ukrainians. I went around and I tried to look for that article today as much as I could, and the only place I could find that was posted was on a news company called the New York Post. And I went through and I looked at everything they posted, and suffice to say, it kind of looks like a tabloid. They are the only people who have said that. I think Yahoo may have been another one, but they didn't say that number, which was egregiously high. And I sat there and thought, how the hell are they going to build up 700,000 soldiers secretly, like the article said, and no one's going to know? Because you've got to remember, over the course of this war, at the beginning of it, right before it started, we knew for months on end, ever since December, that there was about 240,000 Russian soldiers around the entirety of Ukraine on the border in camps. We knew that, we had the exact number counted out, and that was the exact number that the invasion force started with. So, I think that there is absolutely no way, for one, that the Russians could support 700,000 additional soldiers in Ukraine on top of the 200,000 that are probably there right now. That is 1 million troops that they have to supply and feed, and the Russians can hardly supply and feed 220,000 of them, much less 1 million of them all at one given time. The other thing that's a big problem to me is that there's no weapons to give these people. They hardly have weapons for the soldiers there again. Like, with the supplies, just the weaponry as a whole is a massive issue. They don't have enough vehicles. Also, by the way, I'll get to this in a second, it seems as though we will be seeing the T-14 Armada in Ukraine soon, but I'll get to that maybe in a second. Anyways, they don't have enough weapons to give these guys. You know, it doesn't matter if you can put technically 700,000 soldiers in your military. If you can't supply them with anything, they're practically useless. You know, like you can't make a soldier.
Or cannon fodder.
Yeah, they're cannon fodder, literally. And anyways, they're not going to be doing anything to the Ukrainians because they're going to have to run up onto a trench and literally just start punching someone in the face to do anything, and you're going to get shot long before that ever happens. So that whole thing, I don't think it's going to happen. They're saying that it's going to be a mobilization that occurs in secret in the age of technology, even though the Russians are closed off from the outside. There is no way that they could secretly raise a 700,000 man army. There's no way. People would figure out about that quickly. You would have to go around the country in that amount of time, and you would literally be sweeping city streets for just any kind of able-bodied man, even if he's well above conscription age, and just yanking them off the street. You can't hide that stuff. And I don't believe that for a minute. I think I'm going to be honest with y'all. In my opinion, and I can be proven wrong, because there's always the chance I can be proven wrong, but the idea of a 700,000 man army, or a new army from the Russians, entering Ukraine in an offensive around the Kyiv, Kharkiv, and Sumy area a second time is far-fetched, to say the least. There's no way for them to supply them. There's no way for them to even arm them. And also, due to the incompetency of Russian commanders, we can expect that most of the operations that they would enter into, again, would fall apart within just a couple of days past the planning phase. So, with that, now with all that out of the way, that is the international situation, I guess you could say, surrounding Ukraine, especially with the support. And we're now going to be moving into Russia, because Russia's had some fairly interesting stuff happening in it today. We're going to move to probably one of the more interesting ones, because we haven't seen videos like this a lot, but this is a constant issue that the Russians are having to try and fight behind the scenes, is forces mutinying once they return off the lines, and they're being told they're going to be sent back on. And we can see in the town of Voronezh, another unit refused to return, and they are getting in a fight with their commanders again. And so here's the video.
Прокуратуру вызывайте, чтобы мы не ездили. Решим вопрос на месте. Давайте. Давайте вызовем. Просто чтобы было все организовано.
Looks like they're not happy.
Подождите. Включите, пожалуйста, все телефоны. Сейчас приезжает прокуратура непосредственно. Мы снимаем это все на видео, отправляем в Москву. Что происходит? Нет, ребят, потому что это будет происходить. Не мы первые, не мы последние, это будет происходить. А этот дурдом надо кончать. Просто кончать.
You see, they have a ringleader here, and according to the caption, the summary of what he said was that the commander needs to call the prosecutor's office because apparently an attorney needs to get involved in this. Pretty much what this guy is saying is, call your lawyer, call your lawyer. But in Russia, I'm sure that actually has some serious implications behind it, like the FSB just showing up and making your family disappear, or giving your family a chocolate cake for your heroic service in the torture chamber. But moving on from that little clip, the mutinies are still continuing, and it looks like the Russians are having to deal with very unruly soldiers that are poorly trained and poorly equipped. We're now going to be moving up towards Moscow, because Moscow has been the center of fun times today, and imaginations that really make me think the Russians really do have the wonder-like mind of a child. But we'll be getting to that in a minute, because we saw a Russian soldier literally just escape from the front. You see, this guy was given a train ticket to hop on a train in Russia and make his way back to the front lines, and you can see him right here with his duffel bag. He's walking off the train platform. He's taking a little left, and he's just disappearing off the camera. He's now sitting down. Looks like he's trying to catch his breath. The footage is now sped up. You see him twiddling with his beard. He's thinking, man, if I go back, I'm going to get screwed. He's now walking away from the train platform and right into a bus. He's leaving. He's not going back.
Oh, man, he's getting out.
He's like, man, this stuff sucks. I'm not going back, bleed. So not only are they having to deal with soldiers mutinying, they're also having to just deal with straight up absenteeism. I think this is what they call in the normal world, Matthew, a no call, no show.
Yeah, no show.
Yeah, a no show, no call, whatever it is. I think
close enough.
Yeah, close enough. We'll skip over the formalities, but I think this guy is doing that, and I gotta say, Matthew, his managers must be pissed. You know, people who do this, they usually don't get they don't keep their job for long. They're usually fired and put off the payroll. But in Russia, we know that things might get a little bit more serious than that. And so we're now going to be moving on from that little clip and on into Moscow itself, because, you know, today's been a fun day because, you know, the Russian Ministry of Defense, they've been doing their thing, and holy moly, is that a pantsir on the roof? Jesus Christ, it is. That's a pantsir that they put on the roof.
In Moscow?
In Moscow. That is a pantsir. You can see it, like the whole truck. The pantsir S1, they put this truck on the roof.
Oh, what'd they do? Crane it on top of that building like that?
I guess. Maybe they drove it up the stairwell or something, but it's on the roof.
What the hell? They are scared.
We are not scared, comrade. The Russian military is invincible. Quick, get the pantsir to the roof. That must be the weirdest thing, Matthew. Like, if you just walked up onto the rooftop, you know, there's like usually air conditioners there and nothing else. And then there's just this giant-ass pantsir AA truck just sitting on, like, the 10th floor of this building's roof. Just sitting around.
I saw Andrew saying in the live chat, I reckon the roof will collapse. I mean, I don't know. That's a pretty heavy-looking truck.
I mean, that is a heavy truck. And I'm thinking the same thing, Matthew, because, you know, the Russians never think anything through. They never sit there and go through, like, load ratings, like what kind of load can the roof hold before it collapses. I'm sure the foundations are buckling at this very moment, and the steel beams are starting to splinter into little hairs or something below it. Because I don't know, but the idea of putting a giant anti-air truck on top of the rooftop of a building, specifically the Ministry of Defense, it seems as though they're scared, and also that's not a good idea. But, you know, what am I to say? The Russians are invincible and mighty, and I'm sure that they have everything figured out because, you know, they're winning this war. It's only taken 11 months, and they're winning somehow. I don't know how, but that's what they keep on telling everyone, and I guess if the Russians say it, it's got to be believable. But I've never seen anything like that. I've got to be honest with you, Matthew. That's the craziest thing ever.
Yeah, and I saw Nicholas say that Denny showed a video earlier, and they used a crane to put it up there. I wonder if they're just putting that up there like that for propaganda, because that's so, like, weird and, like, strange. It's like, why would they do that for, like, practical reasons?
Well, I know what the practical reason would be, is that it's a panzer that's directly on top of its potential target. Well,
Yeah, but you can't move it quickly if it were getting targeted.
Well, I mean, like the panzer turret can move and try and shoot down whatever's coming its way. You know, it's kind of like I guess a NASAMS battery around the White House. But I still don't get it. I mean, like putting it on the roof. Why couldn't you put it anywhere else? Like, where is? Let's type this in. Russian Ministry of Defense. Now let's see where this building is. So here's the building, somewhere around here. And let me go back to this picture. So it's got the giant Russian eagles on it. I don't know what part of the building that is, but we got some pictures here. We also got some reviews. Translated by Google. Was there, did not like, everything is very bad. The local guide gave it a 1 star. He's now in prison. Another local guide gave it a 1 star. He's now also in prison.
They're all saying Q at Joe.
Yeah, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? Anyways, it appears that they don't
That must have been the crane operator.
Yeah, this sucks. The job sucks. But I think looking at that, there are places you could put an anti-air defense system, like, I don't know, on the outskirts of Moscow, where the missile would most likely be flying in, so that way it gets shot down outside the city instead of in the middle of the city. Because even if you shoot down that missile, you're not stopping the damage. That thing is going to go tumbling through the sky, and while it might not explode, it's going to go flying straight into a Khrushchevka apartment block and probably kill several people in it. And then that's not the Ukrainians' fault. That ends up being the Russians' fault because they didn't shoot it down when it wasn't in the middle of the town. That ends up being collateral on the Russians' end. Really stupid. I mean, like, just a really stupid perspective there on putting that thing on a roof. That's the most bizarre thing. So we're moving on from that. We're moving on into the next bit of news, where we saw that the 1420 channel, once again, huge plug, also heard that a channel called NY Preppers plugged us, and I got to thank them a lot for that plug. And it's really nice to know that people do watch this channel, enjoy it, and enjoy it enough that they plug it on their own. But if the 1420 channel, which is a channel that we really like and we plug a lot, put out another video where they went around the streets of Moskva, which is Moscow, and asked them, do you expect the mobilization to be on the way soon? And it appears that the answers are fairly interesting, so here's the video.
Вот очень много нам новостей попадается в телеграм-каналах различных, то что в дальнейшем Россию ожидает там, закрытие границ, новая волна мобилизации. Вот вам, может быть, попадались подобные новости, и вот как вы на них реагировали?
Стараюсь себя изолировать от таких новостей, поэтому не в курсе совсем.
Конечно, попадались. Призываю к ним не верить и следовать официальной позиции правительства России. Не знаю, я все равно это не могу повлиять, поэтому как бы сильно волноваться. Насколько могу, стараюсь не волноваться.
Честно говоря, мне кажется, что все еще выровняется, и есть надежда на то, что все изменится в лучшую сторону. Вот. Надеюсь, что границы не закроют, и я все же верю, что они останутся открытыми.
Новости не читаю, если честно. Как бы живу своей привычной жизнью и ни на что.
Gee, man, that's like the worst take I've seen so far out of all of them. He's just like, I don't watch the news. It's like, buddy, I think you ought to be watching the news because you might be in the military tomorrow. You know, you might want to just pay attention to it a little bit.
Внимание не обращаю. Коснется, коснется, не коснется, не коснется.
Честно, я отписалась от всех, где есть такие новости. Я вот максимально себя ограничила вообще от негатива. Вот.
She just said she unsubscribed from every channel. Why? I mean, you know, why not subscribe to ours? Anyway.
Нет, ну, времена будут сложные. То есть я это просто знаю, но знаю, что я сделаю все для того, чтобы этого избежать.
Там 50% это просто паника, которая наводится с пустого места, но отрицать факт того, что это скорее всего случится, тоже глупо. Я как студент не сильно опасаюсь, но я думаю, что шанс такой, конечно, имеется. Да.
Ну, какая разница, студент, не студент, все равно закроют границы, но никуда не поедем.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Ну, я бы сказал, что я ближе к мнению того, что границы не закроют. И
wow, apparently this guy just didn't pay attention to the first time it happened, and they closed the borders and all that stuff. You know, like, he's just sitting here, I'm an optimist, you know, I don't think they'll call up a partial or a mass mobilization. I don't think they'll close the borders if they did. I mean, like, it's going to be sunshine and rainbows. Like, it's like, dude, you didn't live through, like, the past 6 months in Russia? Like, that's exactly what happened, and you're just going to go, nah, it's not going to happen this time.
He's too busy thinking about all that drip.
Dude, man, this guy is dripped out. Call this man a geode because he's like every reflective color of blue that you could find. I mean, goodness.
Seriously.
Я стараюсь себя держать подальше от всех этих новостей, вот, потому что я очень как бы близко это все воспринимаю, и поэтому просто, да, основываюсь на интуиции, наверное, и верю. Может быть, это, конечно, какая-то пассивная позиция больше, но...
Но не страшно, вот, что это там, например, послезавтра или через неделю начнется, а вы
я
даже...
же сказала, что я смелая.
А вы даже не...
Мне не страшно, нет.
А вы даже не узнаете, что это случилось. Или узнаете, когда уже люди там по улицам бежать будут.
Am I hearing that correctly, or is that American Christmas music in the background?
Все будем бежать.
Sounds like it.
Поэтому будем стараться просто в тот момент, когда нужно будет бежать, друг другу помогать.
Ну а как думаете, вот с нашей стороны там правительство не закроет границы?
Возможно, но пока что предпосылок особо нет. Если бы они хотели закрыть, они бы, я думаю, закрыли полностью во время первой мобилизации. Вот.
They did it the first time. Why did everyone keep on saying it's probably not going to happen?
Вот, но именно как такового запрета, я думаю, не будет. В любом случае, всегда можно ехать через другую страну, которая будет открыта.
Я сомневаюсь, что закроются границы, там новая волна, маловероятно. Но возможно, у нас возможно все.
Закрытие границ, на самом деле, в связи с положением в стране, ну, может быть, и возможно закрытие границ.
Ну вот неужели такое не пугает?
Ну, частично.
Просто некоторые люди вот мне говорят, там, да будет, что будет, какая разница вообще?
Да нет, просто большинство знакомых, там, родственников, друзей просто уезжают за границу, не дождаясь этого момента.
Кажется, в современных реалиях это просто, ну, вообще звучит как минимум нереалистично. Особенно про закрытие границ.
Closing the borders, it just can't happen. You know, last year was 2022. It happened then, but this year is a new year. It's not going to happen again. What type of mindset do these people? I'm not getting it because they're like denying reality because it literally happened that way. The mobilization was called, the borders were closed, and that happened, and they're acting like it won't happen again or it never happened before.
I think what it is, like the people were saying in the chat, they're in denial and they're trying to like stick their heads in the sand so they can try to ignore it.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be the only way they're getting through this.
На общей мобилизации только информация относительно наших резервов и количества уже признанных. Но верится, что должно хватить. Вот, относительно закрытия границ, но сейчас, мне кажется, это сделать все равно практически невозможно. Но, опять же, могу ошибаться. Все равно
you're wrong, man.
путей, как люди смогут уезжать и будут уезжать, если того захотят.
Ну, я как
we're back to Mr. Driptastic.
Могу сказать, что, ну, не знаю, кажется, что они не сильно выигрывают от этого также. Но, очевидно, мы тоже от этого не выигрываем. И, ну, с обоих сторон есть какие-то действия, ну, в плане именно, не знаю, создания какого-то перемирия. Вот, поэтому, ну, такие, они пока еще очень слабые, но если сравнивать, допустим, с прошлым, ну, с первым месяцем, когда это все началось, то тренд, он хороший. Вот.
Another dramatic pan around the city of Moscow.
Я так скажу, красота в глазах смотрящего. Вот, все. А на
What the hell does that mean?
вопросы я не отвечаю.
В ваших глазах что сейчас?
Спокойствие.
That is American Christmas music.
It is.
Если верить в это, то...
We hate the wicked west. They're full of devils, but their music, I mean, oh, man, that shit's busting. What? If you hate the West, you can't take parts of it and then shove the rest of it away. You got to take the whole thing, or you can't take any of it. And these people are wearing North Face clothes. They're wearing what other brands do we have here in America, Matthew?
Are those Apple AirPods or EarPods?
I think they may be.
It looks like it.
And then they're playing American Christmas music. This is just these people live in denial. They think they're really special or something, and then they just live and breathe American culture, pretty much. They just suck it in, and they don't even realize that they're doing that.
Не, конечно, можно сейчас сесть,
yeah, there it is. Have a holly jolly Christmas.
Депрессовать. Но кому легче от этого?
He admits it. He's in denial. He don't want to get depressed.
Ну, я просто сам студент, поэтому студенты вроде как освобождаются от закона. поэтому нет повода переживать.
Ну вот я не уверен в достоверности этой новости, но, по-моему, в Приморском крае или где-то там были случаи, когда правительство просило отчислять студентов, чтобы их могли мобилизовать. Не может ли вот так
вообще, где я учусь конкретно, в моем вузе ни одного случая не было, по крайней мере, слухов даже не было, что у кого-то даже одного из студентов наших парней кого-то специально числили и призвали.
Неужели готовы к тому, что вас могут призвать, отправить там на войну? Стрёмно, нет?
Ну, если призовут, то ни одного меня, а если будет такая всеобщая мобилизация, то призовут всех. Ну,
я к тому, что коснется все равно вас лично.
Ну, коснется и коснется, значит, так было задумано. Значит, так нужно.
These people are living in denial. That's a really denial-like response right there.
Ну, надо просто относиться ко всему, как бы пришло и пришло. Как бы, если ты здесь, тебя это коснулось, ты уже этого не избежишь, это нужно понимать. И что ты делать, ну, а что ты сделаешь? Убежишь в другую страну, но, блин, это раньше нужно было делать.
То есть сейчас уже вообще никак не выкрутишься, если что.
Ну, кто знает. Как судьба поведет.
Ну, знакомый.
I'm gonna have to be honest with y'all. I'm gonna have to pause this one here and move on because we're seeing the same messages. Of course, 1420 makes great videos, and I highly recommend y'all go over there and subscribe. But this is pretty much a copy, paste, repeat from everyone they're asking this question to. Everyone in Russia at this point is living in denial about them possibly being conscripted, about them being thrown into the military, about the borders being closed, about the universities being shut down so they can be conscripted. They are living in denial about all of those things, and it's very clear. So, once again, a huge shout out to 1420 for showing us this, but we're seeing the same thing over and over. And so we're now going to be moving on from that clip and into our last bit of news in Moscow, where we saw how Ukrainians are portrayed by the Russians in some kind of a roaming play where they have Russian guys dress up as Ukrainian soldiers with yellow armbands in an auditorium and shoot off guns in a closed building. I have a feeling that no one can actually hear the rest of the performance after this bit, but this is what the Russians try and portray to the Russian public what the Ukrainian soldiers are. So here's the clip.
The hell?
This is all a little bizarre. Wait a minute, hang on. So apparently when apparently according to the Russians, when the Ukrainians do heinous stuff, they've got to hold the gun like they're in the inner city in the United States in a shootout or something, you know, sideways. What
and
the
who's
hell?
this guy supposed to be?
I don't
what's
know.
up with his hairdo and everything?
I think that's supposed to be like a Cossack haircut or something, but this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Also, shooting a blank even in an auditorium like this, I have a feeling that everyone is deaf.
Yeah,
you know, I'm just,
and also ask Alec about that.
yeah, I mean, oh man, don't want to get Alec Baldwin up in here, but anyways, this all is bizarre. And also, one thing that I find really interesting is that this is almost an exact parallel of some video footage we've seen of how Russians treat Ukrainian prisoners and Ukrainian citizens. So it's really interesting. It's almost like these guys have taken experience that the Russians have had in treating Ukrainians and then just trying to project that onto Ukrainians in the show to try and make them look like the bad guys. Another question I have is how in the world are the Ukrainians treating citizens like that when they're fighting for their own land? It's not like there's some kind of invader treating people like second or third class citizens. That's the Russians. But anyways, we're going to be moving on from this clip. I had to show y'all that though because that's what the Russians try and make other Russians believe is what the Ukrainians act and behave like, and that's not true. And so with that, we're moving on from Moscow and outside of Russia, and we're now going to be finally moving on into Ukraine and into the news we have today, starting off with our location unknowns. But before we get into our location unknowns, there's some pretty interesting ones. The first one we start off with tonight is an intercepted phone call. But before we get there, we have to address some of the polls because some of them have been put up, and a lot of y'all voted on them, and they seem incredibly interesting. So with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right. So for our first question segment, we have 2 polls to address as usual. And the very first one says, what are your thoughts on the aid package being sent by the USA to Ukraine? It looks like 52% said it will maintain Ukraine's momentum, 38% said it's going to be a game changer, while 7% said unsure, and 2% said it's not going to be very helpful. Now, I personally don't think it's going to be necessarily a game changer, but it is necessary to keep Ukraine's momentum going strong, and we definitely need to keep sending more and more as time goes on. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that it is a very beneficial package. $2.5 billion is nothing to scoff at. That's a massive amount of money. Most countries cannot afford to just give money out like that, and I think that's a huge amount of support. The United States is one of the few countries that can do that, and it will be helping out the Ukrainians a great deal into the future. Also, the equipment we're sending is very high-end, very high-tech, and that cutting-edge technology will also give the Ukrainians an upper hand advantage compared to their older Russian adversaries that are using dated equipment. Not only that, but there have been reports by the British Ministry of Defense that according to their satellite footage, T-14 armadas have been spotted at a training camp inside of Russia that has been used to prepare units to be sent to Ukraine. So it appears that for the first time ever, the prototype T-14 armadas, which only range in about 14 to 20 in real numbers, will be sent to Ukraine and will most likely end up getting destroyed. There's nothing really exceptional about them from what we know in armor protection. The only thing that is really interesting about them and stands out amongst the rest of the tanks is that they have an automated turret with no crew inside of it. And that also poses a whole lot of issues considering that the Russians are running the thing. It's like, how bad will that really go? But anyways, that is something that I think is a massive amount of support, and I do think that will help out the Ukrainians a great deal. And so with that, we are on to the next poll, and I hope I addressed that one fairly well.
All right, and our second poll says, do you think $27 billion is a sizable sum spent on Ukraine by the USA? It looks like 49% said it's a very generous amount, 4% said unsure, 27% said it's a decent amount, and 21% said it's not nearly enough money. Now, I've got to say that that is a very, very sizable amount, and it can't be understated. That's a ton of money, but I think that we're going to need to fund them a lot more than that. Obviously, not all at once, and it's over time, but I'm going to have to go with the 27% that said it's a decent amount. But Enforcer, what do you think?
I would have to say it's a fairly decent amount. It's not overly generous. I do think that there could be a little bit more sent, but at the same time, it's not skimping out either. It's a pretty healthy sum, and I think that it will definitely help them out in the long run. And so with that, I hope that does address that poll fairly well. And also, I've seen some people talking about the T-14s are not going to be that good, and I'm going to be honest with you, I got to completely agree. A lot of people are always putting a lot of merit into these T-14 armadas. But the reason why they've never entered serial production is because the Russians lack the industrial ability to produce these things in mass, and also there are a lot of technological issues that have never been finally put down in the T-14. This thing is racked with issues, racked with problems. Not only that, the upgrades that were supposed to happen over time never did. It's still using a 120 millimeter, I think it's 125 millimeter main gun, and it was supposed to have been upgraded nearly 4 or 5 years ago to have a 150 millimeter main gun. Why such an increasing caliber? I don't know. Like, that was really stupid in my opinion, because 125 millimeters does the job. But they're trying to up it to 150. Not only that, there is a lot of technological implications here that the Russians cannot maintain. For example, the completely automated turret is probably going to become one of the tank's worst hindrances. On top of that, I don't know if it's just me, Matthew, but the turret looks like it has practically no armor whatsoever, especially due to the very advanced geometric design of it. It would be very hard to make composite armor in that shape.
Yeah, seriously. And also, is that like a piece of copy paper with a number 1 on it?
Yes, it is, actually. You're correct.
Wow.
The glory and might of the Russian industrial complex printing numbers on paper. But not only that, here's the big deal with the T-14. The turret looks incredibly weak, just due to how complex it looks. There's no way the armor was made to suit that turret. So we're assuming it has really no armor in that turret. When that turret gets hit, it's going to go completely inactive. It may not blow up. The T-14 may not explode, but the turret's going to get knocked out and the crew will bail. That is exactly how it's going to go. The crew will freak out because they don't have anything to shoot back with, and they're going to climb out of that tank and go running off. Supposedly, the crew compartment, where all 3 crew members are right down here, is heavily protected, and crew survivability was one of the main features that was implemented on the T-14 Armada. But once again, it's the Russian Federation. They don't really care about manpower or people, for that matter. And so I have a huge doubt that this thing will be heavily protected and the crew will survive a direct hit. Not only that, but considering that this guy looks like he is literally resting some of his, I guess you could say, additional man blubber onto the top of the hatch, I'm sure that if all the crew members are that size, they're not going to be able to bail out anyways because they're going to hit the hatch and get stuck. They're going to be like, I'm stuck, Bliet. And someone said, it looks like Mr. Lunchtime. He kind of does. There's a lot of people in Russia that look like Mr. Lunchtime, Matthew. I'm going to be completely serious with you here. How in the hell did this guy get in the military?
Yeah, and they're definitely not going to be able to eat like that on the front line. They better get used to not eating like that.
Yeah, they're going to get. He's going to get hungry. He's going to start.
Very hungry.
He's going to start eating other Russians. Come here to bleed. He starts eating them. No, don't eat me. And also another thing, these things cost around $4.6 million, probably on the high end. And then wait a minute, hang on. In 2015, that's how much they cost. Apparently, according to 2022 numbers, they cost anywhere between $5 to $7.1 million a pop. That is more than an Abrams. And
Dang.
yeah, so I don't think they'll be getting a lot of these things just due to the prohibitive cost of them and also the technological complication that this thing has. I'm not seeing a lot of potential here. I'm going to be honest with y'all. And I can't wait because I know it. I know it to be true because the T-90M was supposed to be the end-all, be-all of Ukraine when it was sent in by the Russians, and now we've seen almost 10 of them get destroyed and captured. We're going to see a T-14 Armada once it arrives. Within a week, we're going to see one destroyed. Mark my words, it will happen. So with that, we're going to be moving on from that little side note and on into, I think, our questions because I think we covered all the polls. So with that, take it away, Matthew.
All right, so that was the last of our polls. But first up from these super chats, we have a $100 donation from Howell Rose, which is very generous. Howell says, Enforcer and Enforcer Matt, for the college book fund, got all your books yet? And pick a question from the chat, please. And I've got my books, but Enforcer, what about you?
I've gotten all my books, at least the ones that they say you need, because one thing that always miffs me about college is that you'll try and read the syllabus before the class starts, and they'll be like, you need the following books. You buy these expensive books, and then you go in there and they go, you don't need these books in particular. It's like, I've already bought them. I can't return them. You just screwed me over. Like, that really gets me. Like, if a book doesn't really need to be included, that needs to be on the syllabus. You need to tell people in advance before they start buying books and wasting money. We're never going to use this book in the class. Because that really just aggravates the hell out of me. But beyond that, yes, I have gotten all the books. So with that, I got to thank you so much, Hal, for supporting us and keeping this channel running, because if it wasn't for viewers like you, this channel wouldn't be possible, and we wouldn't be able to be here for 331 days. Y'all are y'all are pretty much the grease to our congs that keep this entire machine running, because if it wasn't for y'all, I wouldn't be able to dedicate so much time to this channel and be able to do this as a 60-hour-a-week job, a full-time job and a half. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the massive amount of support, Hal, and we did get the books. And so with that, let's get a question from the live chat.
Also, I see everybody in the comments saying, don't buy new books, buy them secondhand. I always rent the books digitally. That like cuts the cost like by 1/3, or it cuts it into 1/3 actually. So it's a lot cheaper doing it that way for me. But I think the Enforcer still gets his books physical copies,
yeah,
I think.
I just can't get into the digital stuff. Reading a book, that just really throws me off. And also, carrying around a physical book's a little easier, and just in my opinion. So I'm still into physical books. But even then, if you don't need a book, why not just say you don't need it? Like, just put it in the syllabus. You need these 3 books, and then put these 2 are optional, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And then I don't know if there are any professors that are at our college that are watching the stream, but I do not like when professors write their own books, publish them, and then make them a required book in the class. Mm-hmm. Matthew went quiet. I said, there's a word for that. I'll refrain from saying it, but I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. But that right there, I don't like that. Sitting and thinking is that professors publish to pad their income. That's true. And I think that if you have a problem like that at a university where a professor is making so little money that they are going to try and justify making mandatory reading a book they publish so that way they can get publishing profits off of it, either up their salary or make that unacceptable if they're getting paid enough according to the university, because I don't like the idea of that. It's not good. It's not good to me. It's not a good idea. Also, Indiana said, are you saying Funker? Who in the world's talking about Funker? Like, no, we're not. We're talking about college. But anyways, what the hell? Mark's back.
He's back.
He's back. We know now. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Hal. And also, we got to get onto that live chat we never got to.
All right. So the live chat question, sponsored by Hal Rose, goes to Kyle Schmidt, who says, Enforcer, I heard that we're going to give them the GLSDB 150-kilometer missile system. Have you heard anything about that?
I have. That is supposedly going to be included in the Ramstein meeting package today, being sent by multiple countries. And so, yes, we will be sending that, and it will be used by the Ukrainians. The United States is actually saying that they will be willing to pretty much give the Ukrainian weapons that they know will be used in the Crimean Peninsula. So that is very interesting, and that may be the reason why we're sending the ground-launched small-diameter bomb, is so that way the Ukrainians can get a very easily and readily available and very effective means of striking directly into Crimea, very far into it, all the way to Sevastopol. And so, with that, I hope that does address that live chat fairly well, and thank you so much once again, Hal Rose, for the massive amount of support and also sponsoring that live chat. That was incredibly kind of you. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
All right. And the next one, obviously, definitely goes to Mark Slav Ukraine, who puts in a $135 super chat. And Mark, thank you very much for that. He says, the U.S. military gift is considerable but overstated. Many of these systems, the Bradley, Humvee, MRAPs, and even the HIMARS missiles, are to be retired and replaced with the PGRS. Still great, but a fraction of the headline numbers.
And I got to thank you for the support, Mark, the massive amount of support, and also welcome back. We've been wondering where you were, and now we know that you're back because you threw in the freaking massive super chat, but I got to thank you so much for it once again. And to address that, you are correct. It is, it's not the most modern and advanced thing that the United States can give, but we always have to remember that every country is always still going to keep their national security interests at heart. And that's something that we have to remember, that while we want to support Ukraine and give them the world, we also have to make sure that potentially we're not giving away sensitive technology and information that gives us a cutting edge that, if captured by the Russians, may put them directly on par with us. A lot of U.S. military programs like the one you're talking about, and I believe you're talking about the little light tank thing. We'll pull it up real quick, though. The PGRS tank, I believe it is. What is that light tank thing? PGRS vehicle. It's so freaking hot in this room, Matthew. Jeez, it's like,
is the fan on in there?
Yeah, the fan. You turned it. You turned it. It's
I didn't do that. Somebody messed that up earlier.
Someone turned it because I'm roasting in here right now. Like I've been sitting here and I'm like, it's getting so freaking hot over here. The heater hasn't even been on the whole time. But to move on from that, and get back to this, we always got to make sure that we're not giving away any kind of national security, I guess you could say, technology, things that will pertain to that. So I definitely, the precision missile for HIMARS is replacing the GMLRS.
Wait.
So,
Mark issued a correction. He said, no, I typed wrong. The precision missile for HIMARS is replacing the GMLRS.
You wouldn't believe me. You just interrupted me while I was reading that off to read. So let me go ahead. So I typed wrong. The precision missile for HIMARS is replacing the GMLRS. That is true. And at the same time, we want to make sure that newer missiles and newer equipment do not end up falling into Russian hands somehow, some way, because that could always be a national security issue. We don't even give our top-end equipment to allies. Whenever we sell Abrams tanks to nations that are interested, we always sell them an older iteration. For example, the Iraqis get the M1A1. The Australians got a modified version of the M1A1 called the M1A1 AIM. We never give brand new advanced equipment to anyone, even if they are buying it. So I do see what you're saying, though, and I wish we could give them more high-end stuff, but we always want to make sure that national security interests are always taken care of, so that way we don't end up in a bad situation where, for some reason, one of these missiles or one of these very high-end vehicles that are brand new gets captured, the Russians take a look at it, and they know exactly all of its weak points, what it's capable of, what it's not capable of, and how it most likely will be used due to its limitations. And that's one thing we always want to make sure doesn't happen. But I do understand what you're saying, and I thank you so much once again for the support, Mark. That is massive in helping this channel to keep on running. And also, welcome back. We're always wondering where viewers go when they disappear, and especially Mark, you've been around for a long time and also supported this channel a whole load, and I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support.
Next up, we have a $50 super chat from Santiago Flores, who says, "Good evening. This is for the whatever fund that needs for any situation. Viva Ukrainia."
And thank you so much for the whatever fund. We've never had anyone put anything into the whatever fund, but it looks like we just got a new one tonight. So we're going to make sure to throw that into the whatever fund. I think it will probably go into fund neat bombs and bits. And I don't know, but there's a little rumor going around that we're doing something big in the future. Maybe 365 days away from the start of this war. So, I can't say anything for sure. I will say this, though. There was a little thing I put out today, Matthew, on my Patreon that showed a little sneak peek. And it seems as though word's stirring a little bit about what that might be about.
Keep them guessing.
We're going to keep...
Also, real quick, if you're done with that super chat, I did see something that is kind of interesting. I've seen a lot of people mention it tonight. It sounds a little far-fetched, but I've seen so many reports there might be something to it. I see some folks talking about that Putin allegedly maybe has died from cancer.
What?
That's clearly a stretch when you first hear it, but I've seen like at least 20 people say that now.
If he was dead, that would be hitting headlines, and none of these headlines are talking about his death. So we're not going to say anything about that for now because we can't confirm nor deny it. And every time we work off of something that's partially there, it's never true. Like the British sending Apaches, an Apache in Ukraine, it always turns out to be somewhat untrue for the most part. So we're going to err on the side of caution and say he's probably not dead. But if he is, we'll be making sure to make a special broadcast tomorrow if that announcement does come out. But I don't think that's true. So with that, I thank you so much once again for the mass amount of support to the whatever fund. We're going to make sure to use that for whatever. It's most likely just going to end up going into the savings account because that's pretty much what I do. I'm very big into saving any support that we get because I don't really know what the hell I would buy. But anyways, with that, thank you once again. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are now moving out of this question segment and on into our location unknowns. Starting off with the first bit where we saw an intercepted phone call where Russian mothers said they don't really expect their sons to come home. But we all know that's no big deal to a Russian mom. And so with that, we're going to watch this little clip and I'm going to let y'all see what they said.
Давай, все, с нихуя говорить.
Ну, блядь, это да. Я второй месяц, ебать, но это хуй знает, Леха, это не война, нахуй. Это, блядь, ад ебучий. Ни обеспечения, ничего нет, как собаки ебаные. Живем по ямам, нахуй. По блиндажам, по всякому говну, блядь, шароебаным все, сука. Так еще и воевать приходится.
Понятно. Че, укропов да. Видел? Да, видел. Они в деревню пытались, блядь, зайти, которую мы мародерили, нахуй, под Сватово. Вы еще и мародерите, блядь. Ну, а, блядь, видишь, жрать-то что-то надо здесь. Обеспечение ебучее не доезжает периодически. Вообще нихуя. То есть мы как вот попали в жопу, и мы с этой жопы до сих пор не вылазили, нахуй. Мы, блядь, 2 дня здесь сидели в подвале частного дома разрушенного, жрали, блядь, сырую картошку. Ну, пиздец полный. Я говорю, здесь нахуй никому не нужно и сидим. Понятно. Ты по телефону-то много так не рассказывай.
Не знаю, я вон Насте сказал, это, короче, единственный вариант, чтобы меня отсюда выдернуть, это вот через отношения в другую воинскую часть. Если часть меня ждет, меня выдернут в Россию. По-другому мне сказали, я отсюда смогу уехать либо 300-м, либо 200-м. Вот я Настюхе удочку закинул, она занимается этим вопросом, ну хуй знает. Дожить бы, потому что эти пи***, видишь, тишина была 2 дня, нахуй. Они решили в Новый год, блядь, наступить чуть-чуть. Тоже хуй знает, как котят кидают туда-сюда, а нас все меньше и меньше. Мы сюда заезжали, у нас 240 человек было раскидано вдоль фронта. Нас осталось 94, нахуй. У нас каждый заезжает по 2, по 3, блядь. 100 300, 100 200, нахуй. Я говорю, здесь ебучий квест выживания, нахуй, а мы тут не нужны никому. А с мамкой вот я, блядь, кусался 29-го, я позвонил, объяснил Насте, как надо сделать, чтобы меня выдернули в Россию. Так эта ебанутая трубку хватает мамка и говорит, ты хотел в армии служить, вот и служи. Я говорю, ты нормальная? Нет, я говорю, мне что, теперь сдохнуть нахуй, этой яме не нужно или что?
Не надо, ничего не надо. Тут все есть. Водки, да, и пиво. К Новому году. Ну да.
So with that, that's the end of the clip. And it seems as though it's not really going well for that unit. They're somewhere in the Svatove area, and they're getting blown away pretty much daily. And this guy's saying a lot of them are leaving, they're dying. It's like, I think leaving and dying are mutually exclusive things. You're not really leaving if you die. You're just kind of staying there, but not really doing anything. But with that, I'm going to be moving on to
Also, real quick, something I was shown by a viewer. This is from Business Insider, and the headline is, Zelenskyy said he's not sure if Putin is still alive, as he seems absent from decision-making. So apparently the rumor is based on a statement that Zelenskyy made.
Well, that may just be some kind of like a hyperbole or an exaggeration, because people say that kind of stuff. We're not going to put a lot of credit into it until we get an official announcement. And I know that some people are going to say, but they may not give an official announcement. Trust me, when heads of state die and leaders of a nation get killed or die, that is reported literally within the minute they're dead. So with that, we're going to be moving on to the next clip of Location Unknown News, where I saw that 5 Kadyrovites were captured. Huh. They don't really look like they're making TikToks much. And also, some of them don't even have beards. Like this guy, he doesn't have a beard. That is that medieval peasant phenotype right there, Matthew. He is literally like working the fields back at home for his liege. But yeah, look at that. I mean, like they're all just Kadyrovites. And what the hell? Some of them are wearing rain boots?
Yeah, really?
Блядь, here's the boot. Here's the boot. Oh, crap, we've run out of boots. What do? We go to the store and we buy $6 rubber rain boots, блядь. It'll work just fine in the meantime. Ramstein Kadyrov. And then Kadyrov walks in and he goes, what's going on here, Don? Oh, we've given them the new boots, rain boots. But it doesn't rain in Chechnya, Don. I know, but they're going to Ukraine. Listen, I didn't ask you, Don, to give those smart talk me, Don. Also, this guy looks like someone we know.
Who?
I think you know who.
I don't know, like seriously.
Well, I mean, if I could get a response from him, I would, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We'll keep that in between you and me. Anyways, we're going to be moving on from that into the next bit of Location Unknown News, where you see some Russians not having so much of a fun time. We're going to have to mute the sick beats, but when we see these Russians running along the muddy road, really they're more so walking, the bomblet will be coming for them soon. Well, you see, of course, as usual, there's a trench right alongside the road that they could be using, but they've instead decided to walk along the open flat ground above the trench on the road. This turned out to be a mistake, as we'll see right here. They've now dropped the bomblet. The Russians are scooting around, and they ran right into the bomblet. Why the hell do they always run into the bomblet, man? They're like a deer in headlights. They always just run into the car. We now see that one of them...
the most illogical thing, that's the Russian way.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. One of them got in the trench, so it looks like he got away. The other guy, however, once again crawled right into a bomblet, so he's not really having the best day down there. But I'm sure that it'll get better. He'll get a chocolate... Well, his family will get a chocolate cake, which I'm sure will really lighten the spirits.
I was just checking the soil, I think.
Yeah, he was just checking out the soil quality. He's going to become a farmer here soon. And so with that, we're moving on from that little clip and on to our next bit of Location Unknown News, where we also saw a little clip about what the Freedom of Russia Legion is all about. Because some people I see in the live chat get confused sometimes when I talk about the Freedom of Russia Legion, and they think it's a part of the Russian Armed Forces. The Freedom of Russia Legion is Russian citizens that have either left Russia or lived in Ukraine and are fighting in support of the Ukrainian government and the military. So here's the clip about one of the Freedom of Russia members talking about what the unit's all about. So here's the clip.
Во-первых, позвольте пожать вашу мужественную руку. Можем на ты, да?
Да.
Как ты сюда попал?
Ну, началась война против Украины, а я был как раз здесь у родственников, и плюс по работе мне, и периодически работу предоставляют здесь. Вот, я приезжаю там и работаю. Был под Киевом как раз в это время. Я сделал свой выбор, и я по-другому не мог, потому что я наслушался, я увидел много чего в первый месяц войны. Вот, и по-другому, ну, я уже не думаю то, что так головой. Просто хотелось реально вот это все прекратить.
Чем занимается вот ваша конкретно, ваша группа, да, скажем так, вот вы находитесь здесь. Я уже в 2 словах об этом говорил, но еще от тебя хочу послушать.
Поражаем цели, которые нам разведка предоставляет. Все. Они нашли, мы уничтожили.
Твоя функция?
Я помощник наводчика.
Помощник наводчика.
Да.
Помощник Цезаря.
Он другой немножко занимается.
А, он, это слово, я его не запомнил.
Он на бусоле.
На бусоле, да. Многие люди почему-то считают, что вот если Легион Свободы России, то это обязательно должны быть непосредственно штурмовики, которые забегают в окопы, всех там ложат и стреляют и так далее. Не исключительно это и не главным образом это, потому что вот ребята, вот основная, я так понимаю, польза, да, которую они приносят, это вот они как раз приносят вот на минометах. И еще мы поедем, есть отдельная группа по БПЛА, если я ничего не перепутал. Опять-таки от себя, вот, что ты думаешь о том, что происходит? Что ты можешь передать россиянам? Что ты можешь передать россиянам, которые находятся в Украине на данный момент?
Что происходит несправедливость. С этим надо бороться, это надо искоренять. Хочу передать привет россиянам, которые в Украине, и я не могу понять, почему они не участвуют во всем этом. Вот. И россиянам, которые в России, которые 20 с лишним лет уже ведутся на этот бред, который им в уши вливается. И зачем это слушать? Ну, мы вроде как все люди должны своей головой думать, а не головой каких-то там. Для них это цари, я так понял.
Спасибо. Спасибо.
Well, that's the end of the clip, but there you have a little bit of an insight about what the Freedom of Russia Legion is about. So with that, we're moving on from that little bit of location unknown news, and now we're going to be moving on from the Freedom of Russia Legion, and we're going to be moving on to the Dead Russian Legion, which is growing day by day. It appears that it's getting quite high now, with another 760 Russian soldiers just completely evaporated. Once again, I have to say this because apparently some people are dense and just don't get it. This is an approximation. We don't know if this is an exact number. It most likely isn't. The odds are it's highly unlikely. It could be hundreds above this number. It could be hundreds below this number, but it is somewhere within the ballpark of 760 Russian infantry killed. We also saw 10 armored personnel carriers get destroyed today, another 7 supply trucks, 6 tanks, which is a very high number, 14 artillery pieces, 6 drones, and a helicopter. So all in all, pretty decent day as far as losses are concerned, and it looks like the Russians are once again suffering. And once again, I have to reiterate this because Matthew's noticed, and he keeps on bringing it up to my attention, that every night we get like 1 or 2 people that just go absolutely ballistic over the fact that we quote this number at all. This is an approximation. We're not saying that this is the exact number. This is something that's in the ballpark of it. So with that, we're going to be moving on from this little clip. No skid steers, though. Yeah, Davis Campbell said no skid steers. No skid steers. None. We didn't see that today, which is kind of sad, but they did get a whole bunch of ground equipment in replacement, I guess you could say. So they kind of replaced it in a way. So with that, we're going to be moving on from the casualty report and on to our last bit of location unknown news, where we saw the Ukrainians destroying a B2. Gonna make you pop like that. Boom, boom, boom. But anyways, you can see the BMP-2 getting slammed. Big Z on it, so we know it's a Russian BMP. Oh, you see them hitting the engine bay over and over and over. You see a bomblet falling right down onto the engine hatch. See one land right on the side of the turret. See one land right there. See another one going in. I think they're trying to go for that hole-in-one on the driver's hatch. We see some smoke coming from the engine bay, though. And with that, that's the end of the clip. And it looks like the Ukrainians did, I guess you could say, pepper the thing well enough that it's most likely inoperable. With that, we're now going to be moving on from that little clip and out of our location unknowns and on into the northeastern area. Because guess what? Absolutely nothing happened here today, and the front line did not change at all. So, as far as we're concerned, the northeast is a non sequitur. We're now going to be moving down into the center, into the Bachmut area, where, of course, most of the news is occurring. And as you'll see, there's only 3 other bits of frontline news beyond Bachmut. So here we are. We finally made it to Bachmut again. If we go over to Bachmut and we look at what happened over the past 24 hours, not much. They took a whopping field right here. You see? Look at that. Wow. They took
That's so impressive.
Wow, dang. Wow. It only cost them 760 guys dead around there. So not bad at all. To keep this up, it'll only cost them the entirety of the Russian population to keep this momentum up. So with that, we're going to be moving on into the clips, because beyond that, the front line didn't move at all. And the first clip we saw was an ATGM Hunta. We don't see these things much. These things were actually sent to Ukraine in 2018, but they're Humvees with tow launcher turrets on top of them. Really, really cool. And we see this one moving around somewhere in the Soledar area. Also, I think Humvees just look neat, but they're not really that effective anymore in the modern world because the armor's kind of weak, but they still kind of scoot around a little, which is good in its own right. Now someone will say, the Humvee sucks! It sucks because you can't repair the stupid thing, and it's overly complex. I know it is, but beyond that, it's kind of okay. We're now going to be moving on from that little clip and on to the next one near Soledar, where we saw Madyar on the line. Madyar is the man who goes, Igor! So, here's the clip of Madyar. Where's the audio? Here we go.
На зв'язку. Ви просто фантастичні. 2037 оголошено збір для потреб спецпідрозділів ЗСУ на виробництво плати ініціації для успішної детонації дронів камікадзе. Знаєте що? До 37 хвилин. Збір реалізовано. Прошу зупинити ваші донати. Цієї суми достатньо для того, щоб замовити запчастин та виробити 3000 плат ініціації. Якщо в середньому по 100 плат роздати кожному спецпідрозділу, це 30 спецпідрозділів могтимуть скинути 3000 дронів камікадзе на бошки хробакам-інтервентам і іншій шлеєбені, що топчеться по нашій землі. Ви чудові, прекрасні. І ми уклінно дякуємо за ту довіру, котру ми фактично від вас отримали, претендуючи стати трошки помічником, таким як ми, літунам, у нашому незвичному, немирному ділі. Але це можливо виключно завдяки вам, за що вам уклінно дякуємо. Я прошу зупинити збір. Пан Анатолій та ваша команда на Західній Україні, не кажу звідки, прямо зараз ловіть на картки і негайно сідайте в Китаї, вже якраз ранок скоро буде. Замовляйте тих запчастин на 3000 детонаторів. А ще поки нарід зупиниться, то й буде 3500 детонаторів. Любі підписники, стоп! Збір, стоп! А з мене, як завжди, регулярний контент. Разом до перемоги. Мадяр на зв'язку.
And of course, a little message from Madyar, and y'all can see that his fundraiser went incredibly well. So well, they can build 3,000 kamikaze drones. So, not bad. It's kind of crazy to think that
Did he say Madyar on the line?
Madyar on the line, yeah.
Is that like his catchphrase now?
I guess. I mean, he's very close to the front line, too. He's just about a mile or two away from the front at almost all times. So he's pretty much on the line. And also, they got enough funds raised to make 3,000 kamikaze drones. Insane. Wow. I mean, like, that's crazy. They'll be using those things up fairly quickly, I do believe, but they will be incredibly effective nonetheless, because of anything we've seen from Madyar's birds are one of the best drone units currently in the Bachmut Soledar area right now. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into the area of Krasnoora, where we saw the Azov unit in the Bachmut area as well. You hear a machine gun keeping up some consistent fire. You see them on the wall.
Ото наши ебашат, мы побежим, они нас запиздуют. Как же группа Янчика, блядь. Оттягиваемся по команде!
We can hear an explosion happen right on the other side of the wall. We can see the dirt raining down. We can see them firing at the Russians, and that's the end of the clip. But once again, fairly interesting look at the Azov unit in the Bachmut area, and still keeping up the fight and making sure the Russians pay for any inch of ground they take. Moving on from that and further behind the Krasnoora area, we saw that the Ukrainians were able to capture another Wagner PMC, and his tattoos are fairly interesting. Also, why does this guy look like Squeezy?
Squeezy?
You've never heard of Squeezy? Squeezy Jibs. Here we go. This guy. Why does he look like Squeezy, like a discount Squeezy?
It looks pretty familiar.
He looks kind of familiar, but I'm going to tell you, man, his tattoos are really familiar. Let's say, let me get it this up to 720. You know, it's kind of weird because I remember earlier on in the war, the Russians were checking Ukrainians for tattoos that had swastikas in them, and, you know, maybe they ought to be checking their own units. Because this guy's got, like, a whole freaking mosaic on his back.
Ты боец Вагнера? Повернись ко мне обратно.
Да, я из ЧВК Вагнер.
And right there he says he's from the Wagner unit. You know,
that dude like came straight out of prison or something.
You know, I don't think he came straight out of prison, man. I think he came from like one of those Russian imperial people that were walking around Moscow going, Sarmat, Washington, Sarmat, Washington. You know, those crazy people that show up every month or so. I think he was from them because this kind of stuff is insane. And also, whoever put that line on his chest was like the worst tattoo artist ever. This thing, it has eyes so close to the center of the head, it looks stupid. Like, that is a stupid looking tiger.
I didn't even notice that until you mentioned it.
This thing, man, is about to go cross-eyed. Just, anyways, we're going to be moving on from that, but this Wagner guy, he's kind of making the whole point that the Russians are going in to denazify Ukraine. A little untrue considering they're not using Nazis to do the job. We're now going to be moving on down into Bachmut, where we also saw some more Russians getting hit in the area. And someone just, hang on. White Wolf just said those are prison tats. I highly doubt it, to be honest with you. Because do you see how big those tattoos are? They cover his entire back and chest. There's no way that you're making prison tattoos that elaborate and that large. Like, that would take forever, especially in a prison. You know, like prison tats are really, really small. That's not prison tats. Those are...
Although I don't know, though, the eyes on that lion or tiger, whatever the hell that is right there, I mean, that looks like something maybe a prison person might have done.
I mean, maybe. The ACAB part, yeah, that's probably prison tat. The rest of it, though, like the crosses, the tiger, the claw or something, the rest of them, nah, probably not. But with that, we're going to be moving on into the next bit of news, where we saw that the Terra unit was hitting some Russians down in the Bachmut area.
Мотолыжа с пехотой.
That Mr. Beast music. I've got $5 million. And if you hit 5 Russians in 1 hour, you can get a brand new Tesla. But I'm just kidding. For legal reasons, I'm just kidding. The Pope has been elected. White smoke, the Pope has been... What the hell? Now we're going through the cool Terra unit intro. This is a little bit of a long video, so we're going to have to cut it down a little bit and skip through it. Well, you see the enemy pulling up some reserves, and they split up. One drove off. They're making my job easy. One drove off, turned on the road. The other one kept going straight. One turned on the road, the other kept going straight. We need to hit them. Yeah, got it. Coordinates! It stopped. Give me the coordinates. It is right by the tower. It is turning or maneuvering. It is near the tower. I got it. Okay. We got the coordinates. It's near the tower. Maneuvering. Turn into one of those voice actors for those stupid games. Maneuvering. Moving to the east. Moving to the east! I'm not doing that anymore. Then why did it arrive? Did it go to the tower and come back? Yes. If the infantry came out, it was too fast. Yeah, an airborne unit wouldn't have made it. Abdullah, the first ones are arriving. That's it? That's it. The other one's still here. One BMD is returning, the other one is still on the spot. The enemy airborne landed in the building, by the way. Infantry fighting vehicle, BMD. What's a BMD? We're used to it. Have it. We're going to skip forward a little bit. Give me coordinates to head. And we skip forward. And now we're going to see the D-30s working.
I see some folks saying that we've seen this before.
Oh? I highly doubt it. No, I don't remember seeing this one before. And I remember almost all the videos we see. And this was taken here in the winter. All the trees are dead. A video like this we saw before was somewhere in the south in the Zaporizhia front where the terror unit was then. They were hitting Russians that were moving into the Yakovlivka area, I believe. We see one of the BMDs driving out of the town again at high speed. We can see both of them actually driving out of the town at high speed. But I'm seeing a lot of people saying it's old footage or they don't remember it. So just because there's so many people saying that it's old footage, we're going to move on from it because maybe I'm just not remembering, which is kind of odd, but you know, I'll give myself the benefit of the doubt. If you want to see that clip though, go to the link in the description below and you can find this map and you can go and click on this exact link and watch it for yourself. But moving on into the center of the city of Bachmut, we saw an update from the city of Bachmut. And so, here is the update from the man of Bachmut.
Доброго ранку, Україна. Сьогодні 19 січня 23 року. Оперативна обстановка в конгломерації Бахмут-Солідар залишається незмінною. Намагання ворога просунутись через Красну Гору, Кліщіївку і фронтальними ударами по місту Бахмут не мають успіху. Ворог несе значні втрати як в Солідарі, так і в місті Бахмут. Натомість у них дуже гучні успіхи в телеграм-каналах, в Тіктоці, на Ютубі. Там у них дійсно ми там чуть-чуть програємо. І програємо не тому, що, а завдяки тому, що у нас психіка у багатьох громадян України дуже слабка. Друзі, розганяння АйПСО, оцих всіх слухів про наступи з усіх напрямків і все там, лавини бронетехніки, стаї авіації, ми зараз будемо наступати. Куди ви можете наступати? Ви півроку Бахмут берете з Солідаром. Куди ви можете наступати? Чим? Отими зеками? Так зеків вже ж теж залишилось не так багато. Зараз вони всі здохнуть навколо Бахмута і Солідара. І все, і чим ви будете наступати? Оцими чмобіками, ну наберете ви 200 тисяч нових, і що? І вони там залишаться. У вас що, є авіація? Авіації у вас немає. Те, що було, вже не літає, вже все. Здохло. Бронетехніки не так багато. Ми ще потримаємо оборону, почекаємо. Буде допомога, буде бронетехніка, прийде із країн Західної Європи, із Сполучених Штатів, із всього світу. І побачите, що буде. Тримали більше, витримаємо її на цей раз. Нічого страшного. Підмерзнуть поля, буде можливість рух здійснювати техніки. Побачите. Поки лізете, лізьте, дохнуть. А ви, українці, не сійте паніку, зрадоньку. Все буде добре. Все, що потрібно для перемоги, робиться. Не хвилюйтесь. Бахмут – це Україна. Слава нації.
And with that, that's the end of the clip, but there's a fairly good summary of what's going on in the Bachmut area, and once again, we hear him saying to calm down and stop panicking to some Ukrainians that are kind of feeding into the whole thing of the Russians are going to invade from the north and everything again. So with that, we're going to be moving on into the next bit of news from the Bachmut area, where we saw even more Russians have been captured. Today has been a pretty good day for the Ukrainians in terms of capturing Russians. We see some right here. This guy is taking a nap or something. Huh? What? I don't know what you're trying to say, man. Just covers him back in the crappy tarp. He's like, shut up.
Дивіться, народ, український паспорт. Лещенко Сергій Петрович. Український паспорт.
These guys have been caught red-handed. And with that, that's the end of the clip. But once again, nice to see that they were able to capture some more Russian prisoners. With that, we're now moving on down to our last bit of news from the center part of the line, where we saw some Russians getting hit by an autocannon. And also getting hit by some sick beats. When you see the autocannon firing onto the building, we see Russians running for their lives down there, a massive group of them, about 9 or 10 of them, as the rounds just keep flying overhead, and they don't really know what to do. We see the birds also flying off as well, and it looks like the autocannon is still trying to pin them down wherever they are. We haven't seen any Russians get hit, but I'm sure that they're freaking out, considering that they're running for their lives, and also there's an autocannon firing at them, probably a 30mm. So that's the end of the clip. But once again, fairly nice to see that the Ukrainians were getting that autocannon fire fairly accurate, at least for the range. With that, we're now going to be moving on down to the southern front into Klishchiivka, where we saw a javelin hit a tank from the air. One of the few times we saw drone footage of a Russian tank getting hit by a javelin. And so here's the clip. Oh, sorry. We saw the javelin launch. We see it flying. We see the tank. Oh my
Dang.
god.
That was a hell of a shockwave off of that one.
Good lord. What kind of tank was that? That definitely had to be a turret toss. We can't even see what kind of tank that was, but that thing evaporated itself for sure. It even evaporated the water in the air. That was insane. But with that, that's the end of the clip. And we saw the javelin got another Russian tank down there in the south. Moving on to our final clip from the Bachmut area, we also saw the Russians get stopped again by the Ukrainians in the area. The Russians appeared in this video to be assaulting a trench position held by the Ukrainians, and in response, the Ukrainians started to pin the Russians down with some very accurate drone grenades. We see them there just sitting around in the crater. You see them just kind of sitting there, you know, just kind of chilling out, I guess. We'll say one guy, he's deciding to go for it, but oh well, I mean, I guess they're just going to sit there for a little longer. A little bit of a smoke and mirror show, but it looks like it's a pretty interesting smoke and mirror show. Now it looks like some ammunition is cooking off in front of them, making the conundrum a little bit more difficult than before. And they're just kind of chilling, you know? Not really a lot to add to it. What do you think, Matthew? What do you think about these Russians chilling out?
Does this mean they're not coming on then?
Does this mean they're not coming on then? Hammond! But it looks like they're toasting, roasting, but they're definitely not boasting. That's when
I was about to say that this became very, very warm, but I think they're turning cold. I wonder why.
I think they got cold feet.
Hmm.
Well,
Cold hands.
well, on that pun, we're just kidding. They're all just sitting there. I think this little offensive was "Stop Dead." That wasn't even supposed to be a pun, but I guess that is a pun. CME for PC pulled out a line directly from that movie, The Great Escape. Looks like the war is over for them. The war is over for you. 2 weeks in Sakula. And also, I'd like to give a huge shout out to one of the Russian soldiers down there called Rigor Mortis. He looks like he's having a pretty good time out there.
Oh my goodness.
So that's the end of that little clip. Also, thank you, Uncle Grandpa, for bringing up that one. That was a pretty good one. But we're going to be moving on from that clip. As you can see, the Russians are not really making a lot of progress. They're still taking losses. We're now moving out of the Bachmut area and down on into Avdiivka, where we saw the Russians hitting the Ukrainians today once again with another toss. They still haven't given up these weapons. When you see the toss coming in right there and hitting the ground, causing that typical thermobaric explosion, which can liquefy internal organs. I
Jeez.
gotta tell you one thing. It's very terrifying to watch a toss in action and think if you were inside those explosions, what would happen to you. But with that, that's the end of the clip, and we see that the Russians are still at it again, trying to liquefy civilians and soldiers alike, regardless of who they are. We're now going to be moving into Donetsk, because some interesting explosions were seen within the town last night, but we didn't really get any answer as to what they were. See the flashes there in the distance. We don't know if that's ongoing fighting at a battlefield or something that's occurred further inside the city, like an ammunition detonation. We're not really sure. That's the end of the clip, and we're now going to be moving on to one of our last bits of news in the Marinka area, where once again another soldier, I believe this time Russian, filmed the city of Marinka and showed that it was completely destroyed. So here's the clip.
17 января 23 год. Центр Мар'їнки. Ось такі пейзажі у нас. От вам і освободитель. Що ці підери натворили?
So with that, that's the end of the video, but once again, destruction and desolation like this is everywhere along the current part of the front line that is active, and it's incredibly unfortunate to think that people will never be able to return to the lives that they had before, and so many lives of citizens and soldiers alike in the Ukrainian armed forces and also just within Ukraine have been lost due to this war that was caused for really no real purpose. We're now going to be moving on from this little clip and on out of Marinka, and we're now going to be moving all the way north to Kyiv to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy here on the first day of the brand new week of day 331 of the war in Ukraine. And so without further ado, here is the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. I'll go back real quick.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці. Кілька годин тому провів чергове засідання Ставки. Були залучені нові учасники засідання, зокрема виконуючий обов'язків міністра внутрішніх справ, керівник Національної поліції України Ігор Клименко. Він тримає під контролем все те, що залежить від системи МВС в питаннях нашої оборони і безпеки. Також в засіданні Ставки сьогодні взяли участь керівники деяких обласних військових адміністрацій. Вони доповідали щодо реалізації закону про національний спротив. Це Волинська, Житомирська, Київська, Чернігівська, Сумська, Харківська, Дніпропетровська, Запорізька, Одеська області, військові адміністрації. Думаю, зрозуміло, чому саме така географія. Кожен елемент нашої оборони, зокрема територіальна оборона, має бути відповідним чином налагоджений. Звичайно, на Ставці доповідали головнокомандувач, а також командувач найбільш гарячого оперативного напрямку на фронті Хортиця. Робимо відповідні кроки, щоб посилити наші підрозділи у битві за Донбас. До речі, сьогодні відзначу успіхи прикордонників Луганського і Краматорського загонів, які разом з іншими бійцями Сил оборони і безпеки воюють саме на Донецькому напрямку, захищаючи Бахмут. Дякую вам, хлопці, за вашу стійкість і здатність завдавати ворогу саме таких втрат, які поступово позбавляють сенсу атаки окупантів. Дякую і бійцям спецпідрозділу «Дозор» Державної прикордонної служби України за ефективне стримування ворога. Зараз ключове завдання нашої держави – усіх нас, наших партнерів, щодня посилювати у державі терористів відчуття того, що їм не вдасться нічого добитись в Україні. Скільки б часу вони не відводили на війну, які б сили вони не витрачали, і скільки б своїх людей не кинули на поле бою господарі Кремля. Виконання цього завдання складається з різних елементів, як оборонних, так і політичних. Але один з найважливіших елементів – це танки. Сучасні західні танки, про постачання яких ми домовляємось з партнерами. Я дякую всім, хто вже ухвалив відповідні рішення. Я дякую пану президенту Європейської ради Шарлю Мішелю, який був сьогодні в Києві, який дуже чітко закликає Європу ухвалити рішення про танки. І відповідна коаліція партнерів насправді вже сформована. І зараз ми чекаємо рішення фактично з однієї європейської столиці, яке активізує підготовлення ланцюжки співпраці щодо танків. Вірю, що сила німецького лідерства залишиться незмінною. Сьогодні ж Виступаючи у Верховній Раді, Шарль Мішель вкотре абсолютно чітко підтвердив і те, що немає альтернатив спільному майбутньому України та Європейського Союзу. Без незалежної і в безпеці України не може бути незалежною і в безпеці Європи. Без вільної України не може бути вільної Європи. У нас спільне майбутнє. Саме так сказав пан президент Європейської Ради, і саме це може бути девізом наших відносин, наших інтеграційних процесів в цьому році. Ми готуємо черговий саміт Україна-ЄС, який запланований вже на початок лютого. Ми готуємо і початок переговорів щодо членства України в Європейському Союзі. Є всі передумови для того, щоб ці переговори стартували вже цього року. Провів сьогодні зустріч з керівником МАГАТЕ Рафаелем Гросі. Є важлива домовленість, вона вже виконується. На наші атомні станції будуть надіслані місії МАГАТЕ на всі. І це суттєво додасть безпеки нашій атомній генерації. Окремо обговорили ситуацію навколо Запорізької АЕС та кроки, які можуть повернути усьому людству радіаційну безпеку, порушену Росією. Говорив з президентом Об'єднаних Арабських Еміратів. Відзначив досягнутий рівень співпраці, подякував за підтримку в ООН. Я поінформував пана президента про ті можливості, які відкриває реалізація нашої формули миру, та про ті компоненти формули, які можемо реалізувати разом. Я дякую за підтримку і цих зусиль України. І маємо сьогодні одразу кілька потужних рішень партнерів в посиленні нашої оборони, передусім в посиленні нашої артилерії. Дякую Естонії за черговий, найбільший від цієї країни пакет збройної допомоги, за гаубиці та боєприпаси. Дякую Швеції за новий військовий пакет, за енлави, арчери і БМП. Я дякую Данії за ухвалення рішення по Цезарям для наших воїнів. Це серйозно посилить нашу армію. Я дякую Литві за новий військовий пакет, за зенітні гармати, амуніцію і гвинтокрили. І готуємось до завтрашнього Рамштайну. Очікуємо сильних рішень, очікуємо потужний пакет військової підтримки від Сполучених Штатів. Дякую всім, хто захищає свободу разом з нами. Слава усім нашим воїнам, які проявляють стійкість і дають Україні необхідні результати. Слава кожному і кожній, хто працює на перемогу. І вітаю усіх, хто сьогодні святкує Богоявлення, хрещення Господнє. Хай сила нашої віри прискорить очищення нашої землі від російського зла. Слава Україні!
With that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy here on day 300. I don't know why I was about to screw that up. Day 331 of the news of the war in Ukraine, and I thank you all so much once again for watching the news segment. We're about to be moving into the question segment, where we're going to address every single super chat that has been sent in and will be sent in, and we're also going to address as many live chats as possible. But before we get to that, I've got to thank you all so much once again for counting on this stream to be y'all's source of news. Of course, I hope it isn't y'all's only source of news. I hope y'all go around and check out all the other channels that we do plug on here sometimes, because they are really good channels as well, and a good additional source of information. Also, make sure to subscribe if you did enjoy, as this stream runs every single day of the week at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, except for Mondays, so you can always count on this channel. Rain, sleet, snow. Well, I don't know about the snow part, because I think our internet went out one point when it was kind of getting close to snowing, or it was really cold, but you can always count on us to be here, pretty much. So with that, thank you all so much once again for watching the news segment, and we're now moving into that question segment. But before we get to the questions, because, you know, it can't be a question segment without us going to the polls, which are not questions. So with that, what do we got, man?
All right, so we have 3 polls to address, and the very first poll says, what do you make of the rumor, put emphasis on the rumor part, that Putin may be dead? 79% said it's simply that, a rumor. 15% said unsure, and 6% said the Kremlin is waiting to announce. Now, I've got to say, it's definitely just a rumor. I'm going to go with the 79% that said that. And obviously, we're going to have to put some doubt on that until we have some concrete evidence, because that is a very, very big claim. But, Enforcer, what say you?
I would say it's most likely a rumor. Zelenskyy is probably just saying something about his lack of decision-making over the past day, and he's like, well, he may as well be dead if he's not making any decisions. That may have been what he meant. And, you know, people take everything out of context, so they sit there, oh, he's saying he's dead, you know, all that stuff. So, I think it's just a rumor. That's all it is. There's no confirmation. And here's one thing I have to remind everyone of. When Queen Elizabeth II died, it was known literally within 2 minutes' time of her death that she was dead, and was already being reported on the BBC News Network, around the world, everywhere, that she had died. Someone that important and that high up in a governmental structure dying, it will be known immediately.
I think she had died earlier that morning, and they announced it, I think, midday.
I don't think so. I think it was almost reported within minutes of her death.
I don't think so. That's not the way I remember it.
Well, I mean, we'll have to go back and look, but that's how I remember it. We have a dissonance there, you see. But anyways, if Putin dies, here's the one thing though. I will guarantee you, within minutes, it will be told, because as soon as he dies, the struggle for power for who will be in charge of Russia next begins literally as he dies. That is what would be happening. So there's no way that would not be reported, because it's got to be reported just for the Russians alone, so that way they can begin the power struggles and who will be in charge of the country. So with that, I hope that does address the question or the poll fairly well, in my opinion at least. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next poll says, did the captured Russian soldier have, ? It looks like 52% said prison tats, 24% said regular Russian tats, and 24% said unsure and undecided. So I put this poll up out of popular demand just to see what everybody was thinking, because a lot of people were commenting on it. I think they were prison tats, but Enforcer, what do you think?
I've got to be honest with you, Matthew. I think we're doing this whole tit for tat thing here. You know, this poll, like, where the hell's where's the opposite of tat? I was about to realize that is a standalone
your pun
thing.
Fell apart.
Yeah, the whole standalone thing right there. If I had said that wouldn't have gone well. So we're gonna forget them. We're gonna forget that. Anyways, I'm exhausted, and I don't think that came together well because I was not thinking on my toes. But moving on from that, I would say probably prison tats. I mean, I feel like they're probably normal tats though, but they may be prison tats. So
how do you explain the eyes, those cross-eyed lion?
Man, I must have just been a bad tattoo artist. You know, not all of them are Leonardo da Vinci.
Average tattoo artist in Russia.
The strongest tattoo artist in Russia, you know, cross-eyed tiger. Strongest, the weakest tattoo artist in America. You know, like a whole Sistine Chapel ceiling mosaic. But anyways, with that, I hope we addressed that poll fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and this is the final poll. The question is, how do you think Zelenskyy is doing? It looks like 62% said he is both grieving from the recent deaths and clearly tired from the war, while 18% said only tired from the war, 11% said he's grieving only from the recent deaths, and 9% said unsure. For me, I'm going to say it's both of them. He definitely appears to be, I guess, a little bit more affected than usual. So I would have to say that he's most likely grieving the people that died in the helicopter crash, since they were in the government, and he likely dealt with them on a regular basis. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say he's most likely grieving for both of them, all the losses in the war, and also the losses of interior ministers that he knew incredibly well. Because, you know, and this is something true. Zelenskyy has a decent amount of compassion for the Ukrainian citizenry. However, you can just never really truly emphasize the kind of feelings that are felt unless if it's someone you directly know. And considering that a lot of people that Zelenskyy probably talked to and dealt with daily were killed in that helicopter crash, it's probably affecting him a little bit more than the normal fact that Ukrainian citizenry and soldiers are getting killed every day. That, of course, affects him, but probably not as much as someone he personally knew incredibly well being killed in a helicopter crash. But I would say both, though, because he's probably sympathizing now a lot more with the losses and what it really means, considering that he just lost a friend. He's like, this is what loved ones of families feel whenever their son or their father or their husband gets killed. And so with that, I hope that does address that poll fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and that was our last poll. So we are moving on to our super chat questions. And up first, we have a $100 donation from Trister1, who says, "Hi guys." And hi, Trister, how you doing?
Hello. And thank you for the massive amount of support, Trister. That was a $100 hello. That is
hello.
That's a very expensive hello, but hello. And I hope you've been doing good tonight. And God, thank you so much for the massive amount of support, Truster, because you're keeping the gears turning. That is the grease that keeps these gears running. And I gotta thank you so much once again, because without it, we wouldn't be able to survive behind these scenes, eating the food we eat. Which I got $4.83 Taco Bell tacos today to eat. So all in all, pretty good. And I thank you so much for the support, because that kind of support allows me to eat and also allows me to get gas so that way I can drive to college and also to pay for the stuff, because that ain't cheap. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, and hello. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
I like how specific you were with that. You're like $4.23 taco. It's like, how do you remember the exact like cents and everything that
Dude,
it cost?
I remember everything that is spent. It was $4.83 exactly. I forgot what they're called. I know them when I get up there. It's like a beefy melt burrito thing, 2 of them.
Oh yeah, those are pretty good.
Yeah, with a cup of water, and it costs $4.83.
Tasty. Make me hungry.
Tasty, period. But with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the massive amount of support, Trister.
And thank you for feeding the enforcers, by the way, like Activista said. East Malibu said, no wonder your brain is slow.
Oh,
what
man.
in the world?
East Malibu just took a shot at Taco Bell. Taco Bell's good, y'all. I mean, I know it's not Mexican food. It's not supposed to be Mexican food. It is Tex-Mex fast food. And I hold it to that standard. It's also fast food, so I don't really have high standards for it. It's just food to get you by. And for food to get you by, it's not that bad. But there is better out there, obviously. But still, I like it. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. But I do have to say though, I'm exhausted, because in case y'all haven't known, also Matthew, this is something funny. I was in there talking in one of my classes today where I had to present something about, and some of them may be watching, I don't know. I don't think I've seen them in the live chat. They may still be here, or they may have already gone to sleep or something. But I was talking in a class today about this whole thing, because, you know, everyone always asks me, how's Ukraine going? You know, because I think you would know the most about it than anyone. So I tell them, and then they're like, so, like, how much time does that take? So I went through the course of today, because I got up at 7 o'clock, left the house at 8:30, got to college, sat around with a friend. That was really fun. If they were watching, I don't know if they were watching, but that was really fun. Sat around with a friend for a little bit, waiting to get into the archives. Then I went to the archives, went in there, did a little tour, because I have to do it for a class. Then I left there. I had to walk a mile back to the car, like a straight mile, there to the archives and back. Got in the car, drove over to another part of the college, went to the class there, then told them about what I'm doing, then sat through that class, did everything in there, got back in the car, drove another hour back to the house. Then I got here in time to sit down and knock out college work. I had 40 minutes to sleep. And then I took like a nap. I took like a 40-minute nap, which is very rare and tells you how exhausted I am, because I don't even sleep during the midday at all. Then I got to work on here. And if you'll look down at the bottom right, you'll see that's 11:04 local time. I get to work at 5:30. And I keep running the stream until 12:30, and then I usually stay up until about 1:30 or 2, going over things with the channel and also trying to respond to comments and things like that. So it is a very busy schedule. 5 hours of sleep at the most.
I had to do that last semester too. I'm glad that I don't have to do it this semester. And, you know, I got to work on the classified operations all day.
What do you mean?
You know, the classified project we're working on.
Oh yeah. Matthew is working on that. He's working on project Org.
What are we going to call that?
Project Oracle.
Oracle?
Yeah, I guess we'll call it that. It kind of fits within what it is, you know.
I guess you could say.
So yeah, Matthew was working on Project Oracle. That was actually supposed to happen tomorrow, but Matthew, being as industrious as he is, started off on it today. So I'm not gonna like strive for that. It's like this is pretty cool, you know, looking over at it. But I'm gonna keep y'all guessing as to what Project Oracle or Project Oracle. That's actually better, Matthew. Project Oracle. It's just a mix of Project Oracle. We'll just call it Project Oracle. Project Oracle. Yeah, that sounds even cooler, honestly. I'm gonna leave y'all guessing as to what Project Oracle is. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support, and we are on to the next one finally.
We got to come up with a better name for that project, by the way. It needs to be something menacing. We got to think about like how they name black projects in the U.S. military. We need to come up with like a similar name like that for it.
Project Black Dome.
I mean, I don't know how that's relevant though.
Well, I'm looking at some of it, Matthew, and there's these giant black dome-shaped things. You know what I'm talking about?
I think you might be shapes mixed up.
No, come in here and look at these things, and I'll explain it to you real quick. Just like 30 seconds. Hop in here real quick, and I'll show you.
I'll take your word for it.
Like, okay.
They got super chats rolling in.
Let me say this plainly, Matthew. The lights, they're dome-shaped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now that I'm sure. Anyways, we're on to the next one, but we're gonna call it Project Black Dome because that kind of sounds cool. Or Blackjack. East Malibu has a better one. We're gonna call it Project Blackjack. So with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And next up, we have a $50 super chat from Anthony, who does not leave a comment. And Anthony, if you are still here, which I think he still is tonight, thank you very much for the support. And for some reason, Anthony wasn't first tonight. He's always first, but tonight he wasn't, or at least I didn't see it. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I gotta thank you so much for the support, Anthony. Didn't leave a comment, but supported this channel nonetheless. An absolute legend here, Anthony has been. I think he's an old guard and has been around for literal ages. And so I got to thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for a viewer like you who helped to keep these gears turning behind the scenes and helped us to pretty much sustain ourselves, this wouldn't be possible. And so I got to thank you so much once again. I hope we addressed that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $50 super chat from Trister1, who says, I have to say, I'd be a little pissed if I were your advisors.
And I thank you so much.
Why?
I don't know why. I thank you so much for the support, Trister. And I think my advisor is a little pissed, and this really gets me, like, miffed. I know the advisor isn't watching because I don't even know them a lot. This is one thing that gets me a little pissed about my advisor, is that I tell them, I'm doing this thing, you know, like I'm running this thing like 60 hours a week. I don't really have time to go through the class roster thing and look over the classes that I need to get. Because apparently the advisor just already knows apparently what classes you can take and what classes you can't, but they're not going to tell you, and they're going to make you go through the trouble of guessworking which ones they think are good or not. Until then, they're not going to give you a code to apply for them. Because I've tried to sit there and just ask them, hey, give me the key so I can just apply for the classes, and I'll just make sure they work. No, you have to send them to me to have them verified first. Why? I'm wasting time. Like, that takes an hour or 2 hours of time that I do not have. So at the end of it, I just sit there and sit on that for a week when it should be been done about a week earlier, and then I finally get a list put together because I have such little time to put one together. That annoys the hell out of me, to be honest with you, Trister. I bet you the advisor's annoyed at me too, but that just annoys the hell out of me because I've explained that multiple times to the same advisor. I've sat there and said, I'm busy as hell. I do not have time to look over classes. If you can just give me a list of recommendations, because you already got some in your head apparently, because you tell me that some classes will work and won't, just give me a list. I don't care what classes they are. It doesn't even matter if they're really all that interesting to me. I just need them, and so I can get my credits and get on out of here, or just keep on going. And that does, to be honest with you, Trister, kind of miff me a little bit, but I'm sure they're miffed at me. So with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, Trister. I was just thinking about that, man. I went on like this whole tirade about the college thing. I gotta be honest with y'all. This is my final semester, so I don't really feel like I have to be too careful. The university system as a whole is a little bit annoying to deal with. I don't know if that's a thing I'm dealing with, Matthew, but like the whole parking pass thing, the whole thing.
It's for profit, you know.
Yeah, it is, but it's really annoying how everything works in the meantime. They make things as unfriendly as possible. Like the websites. Like, why are the websites so hard to navigate? Why can't they make them easy and comprehensible like they're actually trying to sell you a product? Why in the world do they have to be so freaking difficult?
Yeah, exactly. And also, by the way, you know, we're sitting here complaining about college, and also Trister one went to medical school. So, like, that's like what we're doing pales in comparison to medical school right now. So he's probably like laughing behind the scenes at all this.
He's like, oh man, if only you knew. But thank you so much once again, Trister. And I hope we addressed that comment fairly well. And thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And also, I've gotten some good suggestions for the code name for the project. It could be Project Omega or Project Rabbit Hole.
Project Rabbit Hole is the best one because that is actually, that almost lines up with what the project really is, you know? Like, so it's Project Rabbit Hole now. We've changed the name of this project almost 4 or 5 times now. But with that, we're on to the next one.
All right. And also, Suzuki, we can't spill the beans. That would defeat the whole purpose. But it's going to be such a shock. But I'm going to have to keep it quiet and not say any more. I'll walk myself right into saying it. But anyways, up next, we have a $50 super chat from Thomas Marsh, who says, keep up the good work.
And thank you so much, Thomas Marsh, for the support. That's a huge amount of support. It really, and I got to say this again, it really does blow me away whenever y'all send in support like that, because it doesn't just help us to keep it running. Sometimes I'm just blown away with how much support y'all send, like Trister, like Mark Slovokraini, and everyone else tonight, like Paul Fitzgerald, who not only was supporting us last night, if I remember correctly, didn't he support us tonight too?
I believe so.
It's unbelievable to me that people send in such massive amounts of support, and you'll find this channel to be worth that much, because at the end of the day, y'all don't have to support us at all. That's entirely optional. We don't even make money off of AdSense, so y'all really decide whether this channel survives or not based off y'all support and how much y'all find it worthwhile. And to think that sometimes y'all tack on such a large amount of support to thank us for running this stream, it just really blows me away. And I feel highly honored that y'all find this to be so worthwhile in our efforts and what we're doing. So I gotta thank you so much once again, Thomas Marsh, for supporting us. It's honestly flattering that people support us like that, and I thank you so much for enjoying the work we're doing. I feel like it's pretty decent work, but I gotta thank you for putting us up in the category of good work, because I love to know that people do find it to be good. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Colleen Emsley, who puts in a $42 super chat and says, thanks for your coverage. I did mention in the chat that working for CHC in 2016, the Eurocopter Super Puma had issues with the main gearbox and rotor actually separating in 2016. Although looks in the photos, it's intact. I pray the West gives all.
And thank you so much for the support, and very interesting follow-up there on the Super Puma. The Super Puma is a really interesting helicopter. I have to say that I'm honestly somewhat of a fan of the Super Puma. However, it does appear that this one had a bit of a major incident, of course, considering that all hands were lost and also people on the ground were killed as well. But that may be one of the reasons why this thing had an issue. However, that was reported in 2016, and I feel like the manufacturer, Eurocopter, would have sent out some kind of specs or needed upgrades or changes to the helicopter so that way it would be safer. And that's usually what companies in the industry do, especially in aviation, is that if there's ever incidents involving mechanical failures, they usually look it over and they send out a manual explaining how to make the changes to the aircraft to make it safer. But that may be the reason why this thing crashed, and maybe this is a little bit of a stretch because we still don't have a lot of information. We're kind of shooting in the dark here, but maybe the changes were not made to the Super Puma for one reason or another, or there was never a recommendation for changes and it led to this disaster. Regardless, it's very unfortunate to think that the helicopter went down and loads of, not just the interior minister, but a whole bunch of ministers were killed in that crash, and also unfortunate citizens on the ground as well. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and I thank you so much once again for support and providing us with that information. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Right, and up next we have a $25 super chat from Mech Tactical, who says, sorry about last night. I could hear the epic facepalm, so I watched Threads like you told us to. Please check out the movie Idiocracy. Pay attention to how it relates to Russian operations. Also, it has the dozer.
And you know something that's funny, Mech Tactical, is that Matthew actually noted after we got off stream, we muted and we were sitting there talking as the stream was winding down, and he was like, Mech Tactical did not say anything at all after you sent in that super chat. So I'm guessing that the sequence of events as you sent that in, you heard me facepalm and you immediately just Control-Alt deleted the stream and it sat there and went over to Threads and watched it. I'm glad you watched it though, because I think it's a great movie and deserves a lot of credit for what it is, which is a masterpiece in storytelling without really a lot of the filler. And also, it's perfectly fine. We got had, and when people have us, unless if it's something really, really bad, like one that happened a while ago, that one was a little too bad. That one was like R-rated, but it wasn't so bad that it's like, you know, something terrible. It's just like, man, it was like when I heard that, I was like, why didn't Matthew read it better? I was like, dang it. But still,
Mac actually like messaged me on Discord and was like, look, man, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cause a row.
Oh,
to me, I was like, it was a good gotcha moment, but unfortunately, I was concerned about it.
Well, you know, like my thing is that we always want to keep this PG because in a world where everyone wants to be adult level and no one does adult level properly, I think it's a lot better to just keep things tasteful at all times because I find that to be a lot more enjoyable than someone trying to be edgy or something like that for the hell of it. There's some channels out there that do that, and I'm just not a big fan of them because they just try too hard to be edgy or adult level, and it doesn't really make much sense. So we generally try and avoid that stuff because once we start moving in that direction, we start, you know, bringing in people that want edge, and then you have to start trying to appeal to that, and I don't really want to, and I'm not really that way. But still, it's perfectly fine, McTactical. I'm glad you watched Threads, though, and I hope you found... it's not really an enjoyable movie, but it is one hell of a good movie, if that makes sense. So with that, thank you so much once again for the support, McTactical. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support.
Right. And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Panama Floyd, who says, in Slavic Cossack accent, let's see here. I'm not even going to try to do this because I'm going to butcher it, but it's $20 for purpose of computer stuff.
It's $20 in purpose of computer stuff. I'm trying to think of an Operator Starsky voice. The women, they are... for some reason, Ukrainian kind of has German in it, you know, like a German kind of accent.
Maybe, somewhat.
Hello, everyone. It is Operator Starsky, and we are back with another video. Does that sound like him?
Not somewhat, not really.
Dagnabbit, we are going to put you on the list, and we're going to put you in special places. But anyways, I don't think I hope I tried my best right there, and I hope that was at least qualifying, but that was not a good one at all. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one, and everyone's like, not at all, not at all. And I'm trying.
The observer said no.
The observer said no. But we're on to the next one.
Everybody's definitely saying no. But anyways, up next, we have a $20 super chat from Marion Deemert, who does not leave a comment. But Marion, thank you very much for being a long-time channel viewer, and we appreciate the support. Enforcer, take it away.
And I gotta thank you so much for the support, because if it wasn't for viewers like you, it wouldn't be possible. You know, I say that a lot. But really, think about it. If we didn't get support, you know, and I'm not, I sat here, this kind of sounds like I'm spelling it out, but it kind of is, because I'd never really say it like this. I always just say, y'all keep the wheels turning behind the scenes, because I'm trying to make it short and sweet, but if we didn't get supported by viewers, we wouldn't be able to run this thing because we would have to eat. We would have to pay for college, gas, and all kinds of stuff. So we would have to go and get a normal job, which I couldn't do. At that point, it would be the stream or supporting myself and keeping things running somehow. And so I would have to drop this entirely and go get a real job. So y'all are actually helping me to keep this thing going through y'all's support. And while you didn't leave a comment, I thank you so much, because in that regard, you were keeping the gears turning back here and helping us to sustain ourselves. Oh my God. Oh my God. Holy moly. But y'all do keep the gears turning. Apparently Arnie Yunt heard that. He's like, I got you, man. With that, thank you once again for the support. And I hope that does address the comment, well, the lack of a comment, fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
Okay, and very clearly, we're going to address that massive support that just came in from Arnie YDT, who put in that $200 donation and says, thank you guys for all your hard work on the channel. You guys do an awesome job, and get yourself, excuse me, and get yourself some Java and some T-Bell. Love me some T-Bell. Cool glasses face, drippy.
Driptastic. But
yeah.
But with that, I got to thank you so much for the massive amount of support, Arnie Yunt. I can't believe that you just sent in that level of support. Unbelievable. And I got to thank you so much for that once again. And I thank you so much for supporting us. I got to say this. This is what I really think whenever I see support like this. I cannot imagine the amount of hard work you had to do to get that to support us with. So I got to thank you so much for that, because that is no joke. That is massive. And I got to thank you a whole load, because it still blows me away that people support us like that. And I got to thank you also so much for complimenting us and saying that's pretty good work. We like to think it is. Also, Matthew sent me something interesting on text. If you want to respond to that, Matthew, try and do a little bit of digging and see who that was, because we need to figure out if that is a true leak or not. But moving on from that, I got to thank you so much for enjoying what we do, because it is a pretty decent amount of work. It's 60 hours a week on this end. We're going to be adding more to it, and it's been an absolute pleasure to do. And by no means, whenever I say, whenever y'all hear me say I work 60 hours, never think that that's a burden or a chore to me. Sometimes it does feel like it because I just get exhausted, like right now, but it's not. I would rather be doing this than anything else in the world, because y'all are great people. Y'all make this fun and entertaining. Y'all say really interesting stuff, and sometimes add in stuff we don't know. And this is something I've been wanting to do for a long, long time. And I got to thank you so much, because you allow me to keep doing this awesome job that and I'm just more than ecstatic to do. And I've just got to thank you so much once again. And T-Bell, what is T-Bell? I need to find that out, because Java, I know what that is, but what is T-Bell? Taco Bell! Okay, Taco Bell. Yeah, Taco Bell. It's Taco Bell. Oh, alright. But anyways, everyone knows we live in Birmingham. That's kind of obvious. Anyways, I love Taco. I gotta be honest, I try and keep it hidden. I like Taco Bell, and I'm tired of pretending it's not. What happens when society abandons you and treats you like trash? I don't tell you what you get. You get Taco Bell, but I love Taco Bell. I think it's good, and I eat it a pretty good bit. And so with that, yeah, thank you so much once again for the support, Arnian. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And we are going to be moving on to the next one. And make sure to get yourself some Taco Bell and some Java, because it's just solid stuff. And with that, we are on to the next one. And then patting this at Sai, come on, man. Hey, man, listen, I'm working off of like 4 hours or 5 hours of sleep. Work with me, man. Work with me. I've been doing it literally for 14 days. I haven't even been able to sleep at all. I'm like working off sleep deprivation over here. It's like been 5 hours or less. I get no respect around here. I came home and my wife said, "Hey, I got a bath bomb for you." It was a toaster. But with that, we're on to the next.
Also, did we speak to that person I sent you a message about?
Let me pull them up on the second page, because I don't think we have. I haven't, at least. Let me go over there. No, we haven't. They were.
I think I might know what has happened at this point, but I'll have to tell you off stream though, because we blow the secret completely if I told you right now.
Well, I mean, like everything's been sealed shut. I mean, like no one's saying anything about it that is a part of this. And I don't think they're even in on it. Like, you know, I don't even think they talk to people who are in on it. So I don't know.
I think they somehow got word through another means I'll have to tell you about later.
I gotta be honest with you, Matthew. I highly doubt it. But with that, we were on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Rasmus Westholm, who says, "It's nice to catch you live again. This is for the whatever fund. As a freedom supporter, I'm very happy that my government announced they will train and provide the Archer today. Likely Igor.
Igor! And I gotta thank you so much for the support. And also, really cool to hear that you're from the nation of Sweden. A cool country. I really like Sweden. Maybe one day I'll go. Also, Matthew, to answer that, no, I didn't. It popped up again. I thought that was new, but it was 2 minutes ago. Sorry. But Sweden is a really cool country, and in honor of Sweden, we're gonna look at a random town like this one here. I don't know how to pronounce that, so we're not even gonna try. But let's take a look. Look-see.
Gesundheit.
Gesundheit. Oh dang. Golly, that's a motorcycle.
It's nice.
It's nice. It's nice. Man, Sweden looks nice everywhere, man. Like, why in the world is Sweden just such a nice place? It's too nice. Like, there's something about Sweden that is just so nice. It's like Disney World.
Like, Lego clean.
Yeah, it's just so freaking clean. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's a great thing. I've never seen a place this clean before, but it's just so bizarre. It's really unbelievable. Coming from the United States, where not much really is clean, the cleanliness here of the average Swedish town is really baffling and unbelievable to an extent. But it is what it is. It is a very clean place. That's just really all it comes down to. And it's good to know that y'all are sending a massive amount of support, not just the Archers, but the CV90s as well. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying, Matthew. But it's really cool to know that we still have Swedish viewers here in the chat, and of course, it's good to know that they're also sending the Archers and the CV90s as well. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, it wouldn't be possible.
Yes, indeed. And also, Susie Q, I did see that from the other viewer and also you. So thank you very much for the information. That will be very helpful in our investigation. But anyways, up next, we have a $20 super chat from Panama Floyd, who says, Ukrainian solution to increased cannon fodder, ? Find more cannonballs. Send more 155 NATO rounds, since they're getting more NATO guns. Take question from the chat, and y'all answered mine before I finished typing. Also, that's amazing from my dar.
And also, thank you so much for the support. And I do say that the Ukrainians have a very smart way of going around this whole, more Russians thing. They just get more ammo. And hopefully the West will continue to supply them and provide them beyond the Ramstein meeting 155mm shells and other ammunition, so that way they can keep these war machines running and make sure to inflict some heavy losses on the Russians and eventually push them out of the country. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support, Panama Floyd. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And thank you so much for helping the gears behind these scenes keep turning. Because if it wasn't for you, with all the turning and burning, this thing wouldn't have been possible. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
The next one we have is from Panama Floyd once again, who puts in another $20
No
donation.
way.
And says, holy crap. I remember those days. I got lucky, actually quite college, MS State, because TV stations were still locally owned and we all got paid. Here's $20 for gas.
And thank you so much for the support, Panama Floyd, and the $20 for the gas. It actually costs right now about $57.63, at least, and that really depends because the tank wasn't completely empty to fill the tank. Kind of crazy, because that's not that high. That's like about $7 above what it used to be. But still, it feels like a lot. It kind of is, when you think about it. Honestly, I was thinking, man, it would probably be cheaper at that point to just implement public transport. It'd probably be a lot cheaper for people to move around than having a car and just paying for the gas on it. Because, driving...
Our country?
Yeah, because driving from here down to college, that's costing about $60, like $57, $60 really, about every 5 days for me.
Our government would never run it properly.
Yeah, that's true. But it's a city thing. It's a city thing. So, you would probably have, they would probably set up a nice public transport system, and then it would go bankrupt within 3 years because someone somewhere in the city government would be stealing all of the money. Yeah, they'd be grifting the hell out of that thing, and the money would be gone. Kind of like how the waterworks here, went bankrupt, which is like, how the hell does a waterworks go bankrupt? But anyways, I do thank you so much for the support, Panama Floyd. And can you read the first part of that again real quick, beyond the gas part?
I remember those days. I got lucky, actually quite college, in my state, because TV stations were still locally owned and we all got paid.
Yes. And also, is he talking about college or being a part of television?
I was trying to make sense of it. I didn't understand it the first time. Let's see, actually quite college because TV stations were still locally owned. I don't know. Maybe they were like involved with the TV station or something?
Maybe. Unfortunately, I don't know how to address that part, Panama Floyd, but if you want to provide some clarification, we'll make sure to circle back. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And Miles Wagner, Miles Wagner, we're going to call you that so that way we can distinguish you from the Wagner group. I would say yes, interurban railroads should come back. There's a lot of things I would bring back to American urban centers, but that's not something you can do as the President of the United States. That's something that's done on a municipal level. I think that trolleys, you're right, the thing that everyone in America looks at like it's some kind of a novelty, that used to be the major mode of transport around pretty much everywhere in the West, and we replaced them with buses, which was kind of stupid. Bring back the trolleys, bring back the interurban railroads. I think that's a great way to try and bring some transportation around. I don't know how costly that'd be, though, because it could be prohibitively costly. There's really no rail corridors built, and usually back in the day, whenever these interurban railroads were made, like if we look at Birmingham, they would extend outwards, and their railroad tracks would have already been, well, at least the plots of land where the railroad tracks and stations would have been pre-bought before the city even expanded out that way. So nowadays, you would have to rip up neighborhoods. You would have to put these railroads somewhere, probably in the middle of people's backyards, which they wouldn't like because of the noise and it would drop down property values to get that done. So it's a little bit of an obstacle now, but I feel like if there is a way to do it, that would definitely help out a good deal. And also, Fancy Dancer said, Atlanta ditched our trolleys. People got hit. Well, maybe they ought to look both ways before crossing the street. I mean, like, I feel like with that kind of stuff, that ought to just be common sense. Maybe, you know, look around, make sure you're not going to get hit by a trolley. And it's also really hard to get hit by trolleys. But, you know, in America, you've got to remember, for some reason, people don't really understand the whole public transport thing. Like, don't cross an active railroad track with your car when they're going 100 miles an hour because you'll get killed. Apparently people just don't get that, but I think that if you give them time and you let and you know, this may sound a little crass, but if you let a couple of people get hit, I think the message will get across. Don't go driving across a railroad track in front of a 100-mile-per-hour train, because that's just not a smart idea. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, because I think that's a fairly good point. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our next one, we have another super chat from Trister1, who puts in a $20 donation this time and says, 2 law school students becoming experts in political military milieu. I'm impressed. And I got to say, Trister, that I actually didn't know very much about the way military's operated in like war zones and things like that in really strong detail. I've learned a lot from watching this whole situation. So I know the enforcer already knew a little bit more than me, though. He studied this stuff for a long time.
Yes, I'm a studied man, well learned man. I don't know everything though. I'll tell you all that. But I got to thank you so much, Truster, because it is kind of weird to think that. It's also kind of weird to think that right now I have like, I think 4 or 5 WhatsApp contacts from in Ukraine. And they tell me stuff now. It's really weird to think like, I never thought life would lead me down this direction, where I kind of came almost directly involved in a war somehow, like supporting a war effort. But it did, and it's really weird, and I've learned a lot. A lot has been shown to be very basic and rudimentary, because you got to remember, at the beginning of the war, I was making a lot of assumptions off of what I thought would be basic rudimentary fact and logic, and it turned out that all of that ended up being largely true then, and still to this day, that logic holds up fairly well. So I got to thank you so much for the support, because it is something interesting, but I don't like to brag about myself. Come on, I'm incredibly humble. But with that, thank you so much for giving the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and thank you so much for the high praise. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $15 super chat from Davis Campbell, who says $20 for T-Fund here from Vancouver, BC.
And thank you so much for the support to the T-Fund. And also Vancouver, British Columbia. Let's go to Vancouver, British Columbia. I don't know if that's Vancouver the city or Vancouver Island. I have a feeling it's Vancouver. Let's drop down in this part of Vancouver and let's see what it looks like near Memorial South Park on Knight Street. Okay, not the best thing we've seen, but it's still not that bad. The street's nice. Pretty nice. Not that bad, actually. Just that the lawns are kind of overgrown. But beyond,
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, but beyond that, not that bad. So with that, I gotta thank you so much once again for the support, Davis, and helping us to keep this thing running, and also supporting the Tea Fund. I'm honestly a big fan of English breakfast or Earl Grey, which are very mainstream forms of tea, because they're just good. That's why they're mainstream. Also, look, it's Queen Elizabeth Park, because, you know, the official head of state of Canada is still the Queen. Or I guess you could say the monarch. It's now King Charles, but yeah, pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Yeah, pretty cool.
I'm like coming back from like a coughing fit, like on mute.
But with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for supporting this channel and the Dwee Fund. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Mech Tactical, who says, I had an idea that you should get together with your forgotten weapons for a special episode on your historical knowledge is bar none. Keep slaying it. Money, drill, dough, and make memories. Awesome success.
And thank you for the support, Mech Tactical. And also, did he say to meet to try and link up with Forgotten Weapons, the YouTube channel?
I believe that's what he meant.
Oh man, like if I somehow did that, that would be insane. Sorry for the yawn, everyone, but let me go over here. Let me click on YouTube. Let me go to Forgotten Weapons. I like this channel. Oh look, I'm streaming. Make sure to watch. Let's go here. They got 2.49 million subscribers. I feel like they have a lot of things better to do than talk to little old me with 111,000 subscribers. A massive channel, you know, 111,000 subscribers. It's fairly large in context, but Forgotten Weapons is in another league of its own, and I feel like they have kind of like their own format.
Hey guys, thanks for...
Ian McCollum's pretty cool, but they got their own...
Hey guys.
Oh, hey guys. We're going to talk about guns, but they've got a really neat format. I don't know if I would ever be able to fit into it. I don't even know where they are in America, considering that they're always talking about the Rock Island Arsenal. I feel like they're up in the Northeast somewhere, but a really good channel nonetheless. I really like it. And man, I mean, like some of the videos they make are so cool, and some of the guns they cover, it's just so weird. Like this thing, the Polish SMG. I don't even know how to pronounce that. It's cool looking. Like I don't know where they get these guns from, but it's really neat. Man, a lot of these videos look neat. They actually get like some really fluctuating viewership. Like some of them get really high views, some of them get really low. I guess it just depends on like I guess how well it hits the algorithm, but kind of like ours, but still really good content nonetheless. Really good channel. And if I could ever do anything with them, that would be so freaking cool. But I don't know. So with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you so much once again for the high praise that I could get on their channel and maybe do something with them. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
And the next one goes to Cliff H, who puts in a $10 donation and says, how much does an ATACMS missile cost? Hopefully the USA will send Russia some of these on the DL, the down low, and Ukraine will decimate some major targets before Russia can react to the extended range.
I pity the fool that gets an ATACMS. But the ATACMS are fairly expensive from what we know. They cost several $1 million a pop, somewhere around the range of $3 million. So it may as well be as expensive as an Iskander missile or a Caliber. So they're fairly expensive. We could probably only send a small amount to them. But those few would be incredibly effective, to say the least. So I think that it would probably be beneficial to send them if they wanted to strike into Crimea, but they are very, very expensive. You are pretty much tossing an M1 Abrams into the fire every time you launch one of those things and it hits its target and explodes. So with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well. Packetang actually brought up Garand Thumb. Now, this is something interesting to me. I say Garand every time I talk about the M1 Garand rifle, and y'all have actually seen that covered on this channel before as to why I say that and why that's the correct way to pronounce it. But Garand Thumb pronounces it as Garand, so that's just kind of his channel name. Garand Thumb is kind of new to the game, if I remember correctly. Actually, no, he's been around since 2006, so not that new to the game at all.
Yeah, he's definitely not new.
But his content, it feels so new. It's like it hit the internet, well, it hit YouTube like sometime around 2018 or 2019, and then he blew up from there. But still, really good channel. I like their camera work. It's really, really good. If y'all haven't seen it before, let me see. Here we go. Just a little bit of it right here. Like, the camera work's really good. I don't know how they get it like this. It seems as though their cameras are in 4K, a point that Matthew would probably like to bring up a lot. Because that's a huge thing behind the scenes, is what do we film in when we actually film in person? Is it 1080 or 4K? And I'm a 1080 fan, but Matthew's a 4K fan, so we're like back and forth in between which one's which. But this channel's pretty good too. If I got on here, that would be pretty crazy, because I think Post Malone got on Garand Thumb, didn't he?
The rapper?
Yeah, you remember the picture that Garand Thumb and Post Malone took together?
I never heard of that part.
Really? Yeah, oh, hang on, let me show you.
Show me this.
Garand Thumb and Post Malone. I don't listen to Post Malone's music. I know who he is, though. Let me throw this over here just in case if there's something weird in the images. Yeah, here we go. I found it. There it is. Move over here. Garand Thumb and Post Malone.
That's a strange combination there. I wouldn't have expected that.
It's kind of weird, isn't it? But yeah, if I could get on his channel, that would be crazy too. Forgotten Weapons and Garand Thumb are almost in the same league, but really good channels nonetheless. Both of them are really good. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And I thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Awoken State, Florida, who says, for the Gator Snack Fund, got to feed those minds for law school, but you got to feed the belly too. Dang, that voice crack was
man,
bad.
jeez. Holy moly.
But anyways, wish you two the best and can't wait to see what you do after school. Enforcer for Prez, hashtag LSA. Smiling face, heart face, gator face, celebrating face.
And thank you so much for the Gator Bite Fund. And also for your vote for president in 2040. I feel like at this point, I'm really getting myself solidified for the presidential run with 111,000 subscribers. Nothing can get in my way, except for about 80 million votes. But beyond that, I thank you so much once again for the vote. And also, the Gator Bite food is so good, but we haven't been able to get any of it recently because everyone's been out of stock. Now everyone's making fun of your voice crack in the live chat, man. They're going, doo! But I mean, like, it's really something to think that we were going to law school on top of all of this. And it's kind of weird to think I'm doing college full-time in the background and doing this, which it's all turned into a blur now over the past year, so it doesn't even really seem or feel like that. But I have gone through, and this is weird, Matthew, I've gone through nearly 4 full semesters of college doing this full-time. Yeah, full-time and a half in the background. Kind of weird because it doesn't feel like that because time is just melded together and it feels like it's been maybe 2 months since the start. And I'm just sitting here.
4 semesters?
4 semesters. Yeah, this started in February of last year. So that was in the very beginning of that semester. We moved into the summer semester and then the fall semester, you know, all the way through both of those and through the breaks as well. And then now into the spring semester and the break before that. So 4 full semesters will have gone.
You're counting, but the 4th one hadn't been finished yet.
Well, yeah, but I know that it will keep on going. The war will keep on going through this 4th semester completely, no matter how optimistic the timetable is. So it'll be 4 full semesters that we have done this thing, and we're still going at it and doing college full-time in the background and doing this.
True.
And so with that, I got to thank you so much for the support because I can't wait to see what I'm able to do after college. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I'm not delusional enough to think that the presidency is just going to be handed to me. Obviously, it won't. I feel like that'll be a really uphill battle and one that'll be very hard to achieve. But, you know, I've never been one to turn down a challenge. Hopefully, I'll be able to achieve becoming the president and be able to get enough votes. But man, I mean, like, I hope to see if I do one day become president. I hope that I can make the nation proud. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And thank you so much for the high regards and praise. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, I'm going to put up a poll that's pretty interesting here in a second. Be interested to see what people say about it. But up next, we have a $10 super chat from James Lynn, who says, hear me out. M60A3 Schlep variant by Raytheon.
M60A3 Schlep. This is something we export to Turkey. I'm not a big fan, I gotta be honest with you. These things are dated very heavily. These things came out pretty much in their first iterations in like 1950s. And even if they're heavily upgraded, I'm not really that big of a fan of these things. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. I know there's probably a letdown, but I'm not a big fan of this thing at all. The M60 was not that good of a tank. But with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again for the support.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Avari Mandubratis, who says, when Putin dies, we will see a film comparable to the death of Stalin be released, exaggerating the events of Putin's death, ? What role will Matthew want to be cast in? I'm tired. Sorry for the Westio.
It's totally fine. I think everyone's tired. And also, I think if Matthew could be any role in that movie, he could be. Well, I'm not going to answer it for him. What would you want to be?
What are the options?
Shoigu, Medvedev, Zelenskyy, you know, President Biden. Where am I? What happened? Let's see. What else? Boris J. I don't really know. I don't know of a lot.
I think I would have to like hang my acting career up early and head home.
If I could pick one to be, I think I'd also.
I couldn't play Zelenskyy because Zelenskyy is I just wouldn't fit the part. Let's just say that. And also, I don't think Enforcer would fit that part either. He's his own breed.
I have to thank Grain for Ukraine, and I also have to thank the United States government for continuing the support to Ukraine. Without it, it wouldn't be possible to keep fighting in this war. I also want to thank the Ukrainian people who have had faith in us the entire time. We will win. Wieczne slavy lisim, ilitut, Slava Ukraini.
Maybe I could with the voice. I don't know. They'll be up to the judges, though, in the live chat, whether that was good or not. But with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I don't think I'd want to roll, and it seems like Matthew wouldn't want to roll either. And what the hell, Tattoo Guy said, he sounds like a Mexican essay. What the hell? No. Anyways, with that, we're on to the next one. Thank you once again for the support.
All right. And up next, we have a super chat from Susie Q, who puts in a $20 donation and says, grab a chat question.
And we will make sure to grab one, Matthew. So just reach into the live chat, Matthew, and just yoink one right out. But thank you once again, Susie Q, for the support.
All right. And yoink, the one goes to Jim Kalari, who says, what are your thoughts on a European army? Is it about time or no?
European army. Not quite. I'm not really a fan of the European army idea because Germany is going to be a major player in that European army, and look at the reluctance they have, and they are going to freeze everything up if they become a part of it. I've been getting some comments, though, from German viewers in our comment section after the streams go up with videos, saying that we need to stop dogging on the Germans because they have, I guess you could say, bodies in the closet about what they've done in the past before. The thing is, though, is that this is not 1940, and this is not 1915. This is the modern day, and the world has become very different, and Germany is now a major power player again in Europe as to what they can do. And the fact that the Germans are going to start acting all reluctant and cold-footed whenever major situations come up like these is not a good thing at all. And that's why I do not like the idea of a European army and unifying the European Union's manpower, because the French and the French would play second fiddle to the Germans in that role. The Germans have the larger economy, therefore they would have the most say out of everyone in the European Union. They could hold everything up on their own, and that's not good. Not good at all. So I think that it'd be better to keep each nation having its own military and being able to make its own decisions in the end, like the Polish, the Baltics, France, and so on, because by that means everything's not going to be stopped up because the Germans get cold feet for a moment. So with that, I hope that does address the question fairly well, and I hope you understand that it's for that reason alone that Germany would be the one in charge of making military decisions, and they usually are very soft on making decisions like that. I wouldn't like that idea. Also, I see T-Backpack bringing up some of the political reasons that he's not really a big fan. We can't really get into the political reasons, but I can say just for the Germans being in charge of the thing alone, not really a big fan. So with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for a pretty interesting live chat question. That was actually a really good one, Matthew, that you found.
That was a pretty good one, I have to say. And it makes me wonder, damn, son, where'd you find this?
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Joe Shim asked for it again.
Well, I mean, you got to appease. You got to do it. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. So, also, be sure to answer the poll question, by the way. I'm interested to see what the answer is going to be. But up next, we have a $10 super chat from Notorious GRG, who says, I saw it reported on other YouTube channel that Russia made it illegal for its military to have beards. You think it's another Russian ruse, possibly hinting at the use of gas masks? I didn't verify it.
I haven't been able to verify that either, so just keep that in mind. If that is true, and we're going to need to work off the supposition that that is true, that means that the Russians are either preparing for the Ukrainians to use chemical weapons against them, or they're planning to use chemical weapons. Either way, they are preparing for the eventual circumstance that there will be a chemical weapon somewhere on the battlefield, regardless of who's using it. However, that would be asinine for the Russians to do, because the United States has laid out the red line saying biological, chemical, or nuclear weapons will lead to us going directly into the war and being involved. So by that mark, we would be entering the war immediately if they did that. So that may be a propaganda thing to the Russian public to make them think that the Ukrainians are going to use chemical weapons against the Russians. So with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well. And I also thank you so much once again for the support. And I have seen that Matthew's put up a question about me. And it appears that a lot of y'all are voting on my future. kind of like people do in the stock market. It says, "What strategy should the enforcer utilize on the road to the White House?" It's only been up for 2 minutes, and 180 of y'all voted on it. 20% of y'all said, "Be a lawyer and then run for president." 51% of y'all said run for a senator or a representative position after law school. 8% said get connections and gain favors, it's the lowest majority. And 22% said don't run for president, politics bad. Well, I can agree with the 22% of y'all. Politics isn't necessarily a great thing, and I'm not really getting into the idea of becoming the president to really just get myself into politics and just shove myself in there, because I got to be honest with y'all, I loathe politics. And that's really the main reason why we don't talk about politics here on the stream, because I just truly loathe it greatly.
You know, the presidency is a political position, right?
I know. The thing is, though, is that I don't want to get into the presidency to try and get into the political game and rub elbows and just try and be a part of this stupid...
You have to.
I know. But here's what I got to get to this point, man. You got to stop interrupting me, because you're not allowing me to, like, monologue my thing here. I don't want to sit there and rub elbows or anything like that and sit there and try and be a part of the stupid political game for the hell of it. The reason why I want to get into politics is because I want to change things in this country to actually make it to where it's either compromising, where all citizens are as happy as they can be, you know, barring the compromise, or to improve the quality of life around here and the standard of living. That's really the entire reason why I want to become the president. I'm not really wanting to do it just for the sake of it or for the power of it or anything like that. I just want to be able to do my thing, whether it be 4 years or 8 years, and leave and sit there and go, the country has become markedly better due to the improvements. Not to try and get credit or anything. It would be nice to know that my name would go down in history and hopefully be looked at as a good president, but it's really just to make things to where I can get out of the presidency and sit down and go, things are good for everyone and things are good for me. So it's all good. That's really the whole goal of why I want to become the president. And so... And I'd have to agree, the large majority of y'all say run for a senator or representative. I cannot run for a senator, however. And Krista said, "Enforcer sounds like an asshole, Limo." How? That doesn't even make any sense. I'm trying to figure that out. Anyways, I cannot run for a senator because the minimum age to become a senator is the exact same as being a president. So I have to run for a representative of the district instead, a representative of a, representative of district, and go to the House of Representatives instead of going and becoming a senator, because by that point, I can't run for president in 2040 because I'll be a senator in 2040 instead. So I hope that that is the way it works. I'll probably try and become a representative right out of law school, and hopefully everything just falls into place where the seat's open, because otherwise, you know, someone just inherits it over and over and over. So hopefully the seat's opened, or I could just challenge the seat and take it, and then get in there and hopefully start showing that by doing that, I will become a good president in 2040 and be able to lead the country into a brighter future, or a better one. So with that, I hope that does address that poll fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Right. And also I saw Activista say, statistically, more governors are elected president than any other position, especially Senate. And I would have to say, I think that's because governors basically like prove their worth a little bit more than senators. Because they're in charge of day-to-day things that the people of the state actually see. That would be my guess for why that is. But I don't know. I mean, becoming a senator or representative, that gets you notoriety enough to run for president. But I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if there's any sense to it. Sometimes it seems like luck of the draw, or basically who wins, but I don't know.
It kind of is luck of the draw. Governors are the ones who usually get up there the most. But I feel like as long as you're someone who's proven themselves, it doesn't really matter whether you're a governor or what. At that point, you're just trying to set yourself up and stack the odds in your favor. I feel like hopefully, regardless of what position I'm in or what I'm doing, people just look at me and go, wow, that is a real stand-up guy who actually does care about what's going on here in this country, and we ought to vote for him. So I said, or mayor. No, not a mayor. I'm not becoming a mayor. There's no city there's not a lot of cities where you can become the mayor and you get your name known so much that you can run for president. That's usually very unlikely. That's stacking the odds against you heavily. But with that, I hope that does address that poll fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and next up, we have a $7 super chat from Rocco, World Domination, who says, add this to your Taco Bell fund, and remember to always think outside the bun, and Slava Ukraine.
And thank you so much for the support to the Taco Bell Fund. And also, I'll make sure to think outside the bun. And I'll think about the taco because it doesn't have a bun. It's bunless. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support.
And I have to agree with you, Miss Disa. I think reality will eventually sink in, but nothing wrong with a little wishful thinking here and there. But anyways, up next we have a $5 super chat from Dark Warrior 137, who says, if teleportation were real, we'd have no way of proving they aren't just stopping time and doing whatever they want before getting to where they appear. Man, Dark Warrior, you've been thinking hard about something.
You might want to reread that again because I think I missed it.
If teleportation were real, we'd have no way of proving they aren't just stopping time and doing whatever they want before getting to what they appear.
These are shower thoughts right here. Like, these are the thoughts you have in the shower when you sit there and you're like, huh, yeah, that would be true. And I don't know how we would actually prove if people could teleport because they could just keep it secret and just do whatever and just keep it to themselves. So with that, I thank you for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Margaret Hemsley, who puts in a $5 super chat and says, tell me, how did the tank come to be named the Tank?
The Tank. Interesting story. So, back in the day, back in the 1900s, back when Orson Welles was putting out The War of the Worlds and other things like that, the concept in science fiction of a ship that was able to travel on land, a massive behemoth with guns bristling from every end, was started to come about into reality. No one really knew how it would move, though, and that would be answered later on, but science fiction doesn't care about the science of it, it just cares about the concept. So, let's see. Oh yeah, also, I get you on that. So the idea of a land ship was around for a good while. World War I came around, and the land ship was still a thing of science fiction. I don't know if I can pull up examples of that, I'm not going to try, but the British started to think about the land ship idea, and they're like, this is a really neat idea, and let's see if we can get it into reality. So Winston Churchill, believe it or not, headed this thing called the Land Ship Committee, which was a project of the Admiralty, because a lot of what had to be done was kind of considered ship work, considering it was a land ship. So they designed up this thing, and of course, as costs came into the picture of how much this would really begin to cost the government to create a land ship, they decided on something a lot more practical, and they created this little prototype here called Little Willie, which is the first tank in history. This little thing crawled around the field. Say what?
They called it what?
Little Willie.
Huh.
That's what it's called. It's literally called Little Willie. It's right there. It's right there on the side. It's called Little Willie. But this little thing crawled around a field in Britain, and it was so impressive that the government was like, well, we have a dinger right here. This thing's a winner. So then they said, let's make it practical and let's make it to something that's usable. So then the Little Willie developed into the Mark I tank, which is a tank that a lot of y'all probably know from the First World War right here. These things would become the land ships that would eventually make it into actual practice, and they would be transported to the lines. However, these things were considered a state secret by the British as they were being produced, and even in the factories, people could not talk about the work they were doing there because they didn't want the Germans to know what was happening. And so it couldn't be called a land ship because that'd be too straightforward. It would show that they've come up with a practical land ship, and everyone knew what a land ship was in Europe. It was a thing of science fiction that was a rolling, heavy vehicle on the field that had pretty much naval guns on it. So they came up with a code name for it, and also considering that this thing used a lot of the design and construction methods that water tanks used at the time, they said that these things were tanks, like water tanks, and that they were eventually going to get shipped to the front lines so that way they could provide water to the troops in an easily stored way. And so that's where the name tank comes from. In reality, all tanks are technically land ships because that's the original concept that they were, and that was the name that they were given. But nowadays, they're known as tanks because that was the code name that was used, and that's what they've become known for being called, was the tank. So with that, I hope that does answer the question fairly well and give a little bit of a story as to how the name tank came to be for tanks, or land ships as they're really called. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Truster1, who says, Enforcer, my thoughts is senator or governor is kind of a minimum, so don't let the heady fame of social media tempt you. And I've got to agree with that 100%. It seems like these days qualifications are kind of going out of the window for government positions, at least. And I think that's important to maintain qualifications. But I agree with you 100%.
And also, I got to thank you so much for the support. And I do agree on that. That is an important thing to consider. And that is something that kind of does annoy me, is that people kind of just get like credibility or fame, or someone just backs them up, and it doesn't matter if they're stupid or what. People just vote for them. That does get a little annoying, to be honest with you. That's something that happens on both sides. You know, it's not towards one or the other. And I'm sure people will try and paint it like that. But yes, I do agree. I do agree entirely. My brain is hardly working anymore. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support.
And up next, we have a $7 super chat from OK, Let Me Sign Up, who says, I read rumors of a Russian intelligence ship near Hawaii, but I couldn't find a trustworthy source. Have you heard of it?
I did hear of it, but I couldn't find a trustworthy source either, because it was just CNN, and they didn't really have any real footage that I could tell of it. So we didn't include it tonight because we couldn't really confirm it. Also, if it's in international waters, even if it's near Hawaii, there's really no big deal about it because you can do that in international waters, so not really a big point to make there. So with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Mr. Lunchtime. And that's his lunch money, who says, was Pavel ever confirmed to be for real? Also, do you guys remember the day of the war when you guys did the run through hell? Excellent work, guys.
And thank you so much for support. I do remember the run through hell, and that was a wild video. I think that's the wildest one we ever showed on this channel, and it was also the one that everyone remembers a whole lot because it was just insane. Can you reread the first part of that one again real quick?
Was Pavel ever confirmed to be for real?
Pavel. Do you know what Pavel he's talking about?
Are they talking about that guy that was trying to scam the viewers at the very beginning of the show that started?
We never really confirmed if he was real, and that was something that was actually dealt with the old mods before the Great Schism, and the general consensus is that it was some kind of scam, because we never got real proof of anything. Like, he sat there and told us, he sat there and told one moderator he had been shot. And then we all got on a call with him, and he said, no, I'm totally fine. I'm just sitting in the barracks. And we're like, how are you sitting in a barracks when you said you were on the front lines in Hostomel? You know, like, they're not just building a temporary barracks and you're just hanging out in it or something. So that didn't make any sense. Oh, I'm about to go back to the battlefield today. None of it really made much sense. So we don't really know, but we're kind of leaning more in that direction of he was probably a little questionable. So with that, I hope that does address the question really well. That's something so far back, I couldn't even really remember it. But with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Smarzig, who says, I remember when you were doing video games with tanks.
Yeah, I was. It was actually War Thunder. I used to be a gaming channel called The Enforcer. That's where the name came from. And yeah, I just did War Thunder. So you've been around forever. I don't even know what that would be classified as, because that's not even old guard. That's something older than the old guard. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And really cool to know that I have a viewer that's still around watching this channel all the way back from the days that we were a gaming channel, and I was just doing this as a thing. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again.
And up next, let's see here. Hold on just a second. Okay. Anyways, up next, we have a $5 super chat from Trister1, once again, who says, you started S video games. Awesome.
You started S video games?
I'm not sure what that means.
You started at, maybe it means you started at video games. And
maybe.
And yes, I did start a video. Actually, I started off as a current events briefing channel kind of thing. It had a little bit of a comedic spin to it though. And that didn't really work. And so then I took a break, and then I came back as a gaming channel, and then I came finally back as a current events reporting channel like I originally started off as. But for the large part, everyone remembers me as being a gaming channel, and that's kind of true because I only made 2 videos before I went to gaming, so it really was a gaming channel when this war started. And thank you so much once again for the support and letting us know that you enjoy this channel, because it does mean a lot to us. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again for the support.
Indeed. And also, I'm not sure like how to interpret this, but do you understand what Brad Sovey is saying in the live chat? Like, how do you interpret that?
I don't really know. I'm kind of trying to like, I'm just sitting there watching it and I'm seeing if it's going to go in a direction because I don't really know what that's going for. You know,
I don't either. It seems like it's kind of like a jaded statement, somewhat.
I don't know if you could clarify that real quick, Brad, because that's kind of like on a borderline area. We don't really know where that's going, but I have a feeling he's kind of going somewhere negative. So with that, we're on to the next one.
And on to the next one. We have a $10 super chat from Craig Platel, who says, when people complain about HMMWVs, tell them to spend some time in open-top, unarmored Jeeps with tows or 50 cal Mark 19s mounted.
And I will make sure to do that because, you know, people don't really appreciate the Humvee. It is truly a good Humvee. It is the only Humvee. It's a great car. I mean, I like it. And so with that, thank you so much for the support. And I will make sure to tell them that and give them a good old gotcha. And so with that, we're on to the next one. Thank you once again for the support and the recommendation.
The next one we have is from the entire family. Billy, Joe, Carl, Bob, Danny, and Frank, who puts in a $5 donation and says, Solovyov's reaction upon hearing about the Apaches in Ukraine rumor during live broadcast. Breaking news. Good news, guys.
And also there's a second one.
Soon there will be chocolate cake for everyone. Yeah. Harshly whispering to some poor assistant while grinding his teeth. Get the 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3. We're waiting for the third page now. But this is gripping. Mr. Diggs. We'll get to yours in a second. Let's see. And see here, we're waiting for the whole family's third statement. I'm sorry, y'all. I feel like I've honestly gotten incredibly tired over here. And I'm telling y'all, I've got to be honest with y'all. The whole college thing, 5 days a week, and doing this on top of it is wearing me down quickly. But we're gonna hang in here all 14 weeks. And I'll just deal with it.
I'd say this is like preparation for when we're out of law school, like actually going into practice. This is like preparation for that kind of tired.
Yeah, I don't know, Matthew, because I'm going from 7 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the morning. And
we'll be doing that. We'll be doing those kind of hours, like when we get out of law school for sure.
Not that I could see. This is a little exceptional. But we're still waiting for the third. Hey, there's the third.
Hey. All right. So the third one from Billy, Joe, Carl, Bob, Danny, and Frank. The $5 donation for the third one. Helicopter ready in 5, or you will carry me on your back to Kazakhstan. Read that with thick Orky accent, of course.
So we'll read the whole thing from start. Solovyov's reaction upon hearing about the Apaches in Ukraine during live broadcast. Breaking news! Good news, guys! Soon there will be chocolate cake for everyone. Yeah! Harshly whispering to some poor assistant while grinding his teeth. Get the helicopter ready in 5, or you will carry me on your back to Kazakhstan. Read that with thick Orky accent, of course. Wink. And thank you so much for the support, the whole family. And I've got to say, I think that would be a largely true story. And also a pretty funny one at that. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, the whole family. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And that is probably a fairly true story. And so with that, we are on to the next one. I also saw you just got rid of Brad Sovey. I was like trying to go back and see if he had thrown in anything extra.
He didn't send anything extra, but everybody was saying he was a bot, and I'd have to agree. He didn't even like clarify his statements or anything, so I would assume that it was bad.
Yeah, he was like, I don't want to vote for someone who's just wanting to be the president. And like it sounded like that was being like negative. It's like, I'm not really into that. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well, the whole family, and thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a, excuse me, goodness, a $5 super chat from Mr. Diggs, who says, I just found YouTube channel Kings and Generals. They did 2 documentaries so far on Ukraine. In my opinion, these were very well done and insulted main media too, LSA.
I think everyone on YouTube takes a jab at the mainstream media, and what's funny to me is that there's one particular news outlet that likes to say it's not mainstream media. I'm not going to say who it is because y'all know who it is. In their mainstream media, just a different flavor. That's really stupid to me because that's like me going, I'm not a YouTube channel. I'm different. I am a YouTube channel. That's just pure fact, you know? But that is something that I like about YouTube is that everyone takes a huge dump on a lot of stuff that's shown on TV because TV is really going downhill in quality, not just the news, but stuff like, you know, remember when the military channel used to be the military channel?
Yeah, and then they went to like full-time like World War II like Nazi channel.
No, and then they turned into the American History Channel, and then now all they cover is Nazi UFOs and then also American pickers, and that's it. That's all you get. Like
It's really like suspicious, like how much they focus on like the Nazis on that like channel. It's really kind of suspicious.
Did Hitler really have a UFO? Let's find out. And then the whole documentary is 40 minutes of pretty much blue balling, and then by the end of it, you still don't have an answer. I mean, he could have, but we don't really know. It's like, that's just stupid. Like, it's such a waste of time. And a YouTube video will condense all of that down that took them 45 minutes to do on television. Because, you know, they're trying to pad the runtime so that way they can throw in as many ad breaks as possible. And you can get that on YouTube in like 8 minutes. Like, all the information you'd want to know. I honestly just don't like TV and TV broadcasting. It's terrible. It's terrible. And there's such a great alternative now on YouTube. But with that, I do thank you so much for the support, and he is a pretty cool channel, and we'll see about getting in touch with him. I will say that. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support, Mr. Diggs.
Right, and up next, we have a $5 super chat from Trister1 once again, who confirms Enforcer's worst suspicions. Yeah, no, Enforcer, and also Matt, you're working doctor medicine hours and not lawyer hours. Oh, let me fake a laugh real quick.
You're working doctor medicine hours. What does that mean? Does that mean it's worse than lawyer hours or better?
I think doctor medicine hours means like, you know, it's like, I think Monday through Friday, like 9 to 5, I'm guessing. Maybe. You might correct me on that. I think lawyer hours are much worse.
How many, let's just type that in. How many hours does a lawyer work a day? How many hours does an attorney, and I know it's by
worse,
but work a day. Yeah, I'm already putting in foreshadowing. More than 40 hours a week. That's on average apparently. It's not uncommon for lawyers, especially big law attorneys, to work up to 80 hours each week. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. I got to say this. I'm doing 60 hours a week on this YouTube channel, and then I also do 15 credit hours of classes, and I have to go in person, which that means each day I have to go to some classes for a couple of hours, and then I have to drive 2 hours round trip. So then that's a whole extra 5 hours added in each day on the weekdays. Then on the weekends, there's other stuff that we're doing. Like we now are filling up the weekend free time. So I don't know if I add that all together, it's apparently big law attorney hours or even higher. Not that I'm counting or anything like that. I'm really just counting the stream hours, and I just go and I'm doing college full time too, and I don't really go into adding that. But that's really interesting. Only most lawyers work more than 40 hours a week. That's not as high as I thought it would be for most. I thought it would actually be around what I'm doing. That's actually kind of low.
It's going to be about 80 a week. Oh, it says it right there in front of me, by the way. It says big law works up to 80 hours a week, and also Trister said 80 a week as well. It depends, like how you're starting out. If you're working for yourself, it's going to be a little different. If you're going into a law firm, they're going to work you to death because they throw all the basically like the menial labor on you. But yeah, it's just I expect a lot of work when we first start out because we're wanting to go into private practice and not go work for a law firm.
Yeah, you know, but at this point, you know, doing this channel and considering that I won't be doing college or law school anymore, which will really take a lot of time and free it up, that shouldn't be too hard. That ought to, honestly, compared to what this is feeling like now, getting 5 hours of sleep a day. Because I know one thing, attorneys are not getting 5 hours of sleep a day. I know that for sure. They're getting more than that. And it ought to feel like a cakewalk. So with that, I hope that, and if I'm found out wrong, then, you know, so it looks like I found out wrong. But with that, thank you once again for the support, Truster. And regardless, if it gets harder, I'll just deal with it. If it doesn't, if it gets easier, then that's great. But with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
And next up, we have a $5 super chat from Neoclassic YouTube, who says, "Good morning, everyone. I'm off to work. Have another coffee, an hour later, and Slava LSA. And I'll assume they're not off to work at midnight our time. They're probably like in Europe or something.
Hi ho, it's off to work I go. If they work the night shift at the gas station, I'm so sorry. I wish you the best of luck. Stay safe. And if you're not, and you're still on the other side of the world, I hope you have a fun time at work, and we will make sure to get ourselves some coffee. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support.
All right. And also, let me clarify something. I just put in paralegal is a bad position, and I was referring to the amount of hours and the workload you have. I wasn't saying like people that are paralegals are bad, so don't misinterpret it that way. But anyways, up next we have a $3 super chat from the Lady Kara, who says Slava Ukraine.
And thank you so much, Lady Kara, for the support. And Slava Ukraini. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you for helping this channel to keep on running.
And up next, we have a $3 super chat from Banana Boat 30 Plus, who says, to the first point at the start with the U.S. budget, you guys are spending a small percentage to take out your biggest geopolitical rival, barring China.
And that's what I'm saying. It's a great steal of a deal considering what we're inflicting on the Russians for such a cost. It's really cheap. It's like a wholesale value, destroy a rival for nothing, really. And so with that, thank you so much for the support, and I hope that does address the comment fairly well, because that's exactly what I'm trying to say, but you said it a lot better. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again. Barry Mundy said, are paralegals lawyers in wheelchairs?
Oh, I got a kick out of that one.
That's actually pretty good. That's a really good one. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. So up next, we have a $2 super chat from James Dunn, who says, look at the jobs they have. They won't get drafted.
Oh, well, I mean, you never know. I mean, you know, sometimes people get drafted for the funniest things in Russia. Sometimes they just conscript the college-age people to make to remind them that they're not going to have life easy just because they're smart. But with that, well, if they are smart, I mean, I don't know if they are. But with that, I thank you so much for the support, and I hope that does address the comment fairly well. But you do have a really good point there, I will admit. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again for the support.
All right, and for our final super chat for right now, we have a $2 donation from Dupper Bob, who does not leave a comment. But Dupper, thank you very much. As always, very consistent support, and I have a very consistent response to it as well, and thank you very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I got to thank you so much for the support, because without it, we wouldn't be able to keep this thing running. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be possible. And so with that, I got to thank you so much once again for the support. Yay! Because without it, just couldn't happen. And so with that, hope that does address that fairly well. And that was not our final super chat, Matthew. You're a liar. We got one for Trish.
We have one from Trister1, once again, who puts in a $5 donation and says, excited to see what you guys do with the opportunity. And I got to say, I'm also excited to see what we can do with the opportunity ourselves.
I'm not going to lie either, Trister. I'm excited to see what we will do with with this opportunity. This is one that I didn't really think we'd be provided, yet we were. It was provided. It kind of just came out of nowhere. But it's a crazy one, and hopefully good things will come from it. I hope. And so with that, thank you once again for the support, Trister. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, since Trister went to medical school, this is a question I have for Trister. How did you mentally adapt to taking on so much debt going to school? Because I'm having a small little problem with the amount of debt that we're going to go into going to law school. I know it'll probably pay off in the end, but it's just like a mental thing with me. For some reason, I'm just hesitant when I think about the amount of money it takes to go to law school. But I'm confident I know that's what I want to do, but I just want to know from you, how'd you deal with that? But anyways, Enforcer, do you have anything to say about that before I move on?
Man, geez, I don't know. So there, we're on to the next one.
All right, so we're moving to our live chat, and of course, we're going to address the Morse code decoders of the stream. We have JP's RCs, Mark Hodges, CFA, WF2U, Rumpelstiltskin, and also Marichka, who say the Morse code says the Russians are doing so poorly that there is nothing to say. Slava LSA, Slava Ukraine, and Igor.
And you got that correct. That is the Morse code message, and there's really nothing to say about it. They're just losing so badly. That's all there is to it. They just lose badly. And so with that, thank you so much once again for deciphering that Morse code message to a lot of you. And of course, I can't believe y'all have done that for the 331st day in a row. And so with that, we are on to the next one. Also, did we call out Dubsy Dabster?
No, I was about to get to that one right now, actually. Shout out to Dubsy Dabster for that $2 donation. And thank you very much as well for that very consistent support. I was thinking, where's Dubsy with the $2? I saw Dupper. I was like, always there's Dubsy and Dupper. But thank you very much for that. And never mind, I'm not going to address that one. But let's see. Wait a minute. Did you answer that question already?
Yeah, we did. You getting a little flustered by the live chat, Matthew?
Oh, no, I'm sort of like, I lost my place in my mind there for a minute. But anyways, moving on to our next live chat question. We have one from Anonymous, who says, WTF kind of intelligence did Russia receive to compel them to hoist a full-on truck with an anti-missile system to the top of the building?
Hell if I know. I got to be honest with you. I have no idea who thought that was a smart idea in the first place. Considering there's so many other ideas that they could have used, I have no idea. I would honestly have to just completely declare ignorance on that one, because I don't know. I really don't know. I've been trying to figure that out. Who in the world would have said something where it's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, let's put it on top of the building? I don't know. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to declare ignorance on that one, but that is a great question. Also, we have the American Club of Education right here. It's an English language school. Look, it's New York! Oh, that's not a nice class. Oh, look, a waterfall. Oh, look, these people outside. I'm sure they're getting beat daily by the Russians. You're stupid, you learn English, you traitor. Let's see here. California. Kind of weird. And then they just got these random pictures of people at the place. Huh. Also, this guy wearing a white t-shirt.
What's he holding, a vape?
Bro, do you even vape?
These are strange pictures. Like, I'm not even sure what they're going for with this.
These are really bizarre. Especially this woman here. She just looks unnatural, like uneasy. It's kind of weird. Let's see. What else is there around this place? The Four Seasons Hotel. You know, so I stay at the Four Seasons. It's $567 a night to stay in this thing. That is expensive. Jeez, that's expensive. It doesn't look that bad, though, but considering it's in Russia, you know, the FSB could just pop up at any point and take you away, so, you know. Anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
Right. And up next, we have a question from, let's see, Robert Harrington, who says, is the USA giving ships to Ukraine?
No, not ships. They've given some boats, supposedly. I've never seen them, though. But not ships. We haven't seen ships. They did buy some ships from the Turks, though, that the Turks are currently building. So with that, I hope that does address the question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one we have is from Jim Kalari, who says, why don't we send Blackwater over there to help Ukraine?
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like those little fellows might be committing some crimes of the war that we might not like. They might not represent us too well, so we might want to avoid sending the Rock of Black over there. But good question. And I think that would be my best answer. But, you know, it's really up to you. Do you think they're war criminals or not? I kind of think they may be. But with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you for a good question.
And the next one goes to Richard W., who says, can Ukraine achieve a significant offensive with only Bradley and Stryker vehicles?
I have a feeling they could. Of course, if you're talking about frontline infantry supporting vehicles, and that's all they have, I feel like that wouldn't work well. You would need artillery support most likely for them. But if you're talking about those are the only infantry, support vehicles there are, and there are no tanks, I feel like you could get a pretty decent offensive momentum going on with just those alone. So with that, I hope that does answer that question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Amma, who says, are Wagner captured soldiers traded in the POW exchanges?
Captured Wagner soldiers. I don't know. I haven't really heard any specific details whether they are or aren't. So unfortunately, I have to declare ignorance on that one because we don't have any clear information to give a definitive answer with. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, is sausage gravy biscuits question, is that considered political? If it's talking about Supreme Court, it's not necessarily politics related because the court's not supposed to be political.
It kind of is. It's kind of something we can't really cover because just trying to answer that question kind of delves into the political realm. So we'll have to.
Well, I'll just say this, since it's not this part's not political. My guess is they probably know who leaked it, and it would degrade the court so badly that they're going to act like they don't know who it was. That would be my guess.
And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Mr. Shipwright, who says, Enforcer, what do you think of the USA Champ missile? It would be effective.
Unfortunately, I don't know a lot about the Champ missile. Champ missile. Yeah, I don't really know a lot about this missile. I gotta be honest with you. So unfortunately, I would have to declare ignorance on this thing. It looks like there's so little information about it. There's not really a lot to write about it either. So, with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well. I'm sorry if y'all hear me taking long pauses. I'm passing out back here behind the scenes. But I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one. I'm sorry about the yawning, y'all. It's not something I'm like intentionally. Obviously, I'm not intentionally doing it. It's just that I'm that exhausted. With that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and next up, we have a question from Steve Ehrlich, who says, have you spoken about the decision expected today from the German Prime Minister?
I have not, because that decision has not come out yet as far as we were concerned with making this news, so we have not been able to cover it because the decision has not occurred yet, at least as far as we know. So with that, I hope that does address that question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to LZ X-Ray 67, who says, what are they going to do with all the mobilized Russians? Force march them, ? They have no vehicles.
That's a good question. They'll probably railroad them up towards the front, and then that's all they would be left doing. They would just be marching around. They would have to carry all the food with them. So you can kind of see right there at the start, with an industrialized country trying to pull off something like that, with a massive army and the hundreds of thousands, that's impossible without most of those guys starving to death within days or weeks. So with that, I hope that does address that question fairly well, because that's a really good point, and that's one of the points I tried to bring up earlier, but you put it out better than I did, really. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you for bringing that up.
And the next one goes to Jethro Bradley, who says, Enforcer, of the latest batch of weaponry heading to Ukraine, which items do you think will make the biggest difference to the tide of the war?
The weapons that will make the biggest difference to the tide of the war will most likely be the F-16, and also the Abrams tanks, considering that the Abrams will probably be a little bit more stable in their support packages and also their support in general logistically. I think that would be a lot better than sending a Leopard 2, because the Germans can waffle, and we've seen them waffle a lot. So I would say that those would be the most important weapon systems that the United States could send to keep this war going in Ukraine's favor and turn around a little bit better than it is right now. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question fairly well, and we are on to the next one. I think this is probably going to be like one of the last questions of the night, getting on towards the last one. So let's get on to it.
Right, and this one goes to Chris Marin, who says, maybe Ukraine, Poland, the Baltics, Norway, and Finland should give up on NATO and make their own alliance. We could ally with them just like Japan and South Korea.
Pretty cool idea. I think that's pretty neat. However, they want to be a part of NATO because NATO has nuclear arms inside of it, and that definitely guarantees a stalemate and a deadlock. Because while Finland and Sweden could make an alliance amongst each other, the Russians could still attack Finland, and the Swedes would have to send their armed forces into Finland to try and fight a defensive war. And so they kind of get into the same situation that Ukraine has. It's just that instead of it just being Ukraine alone, it's two countries going up against Russia instead of one. But NATO guarantees that they will be permanently protected because they have a big daddy warbucks over here in the United States protecting them, and they also have the nuclear arm power of the British and the French to also back them up as well. And so with that, I hope that does address the question fairly well. Really good one. And that is a good point. That is the best option if they can't join NATO, but joining NATO should be the preferable alternative. And so I hope we answered that fairly well, and we are on to the next one. I think this one's from our boy Twista.
It is. It's from Trister1 once again, who puts in a $20 donation this time and says, Reddit videos of Abrams moving around Poland, ? I wonder if our Adam isn't moving heavy weapons weeks before the announcement.
And that's what that's what I've been thinking. It may be the case because we've seen the Bradleys moving around, and those are being announced to be sent to Ukraine, and we're seeing a lot of Abrams as well, and that may also be the case. We can't really say definitively right now, but it is certainly looking like it is sizing up towards that direction. And so with that, I got to thank you so much once again for the support you've sent in tonight, Trister. All of it from the first one to now, because it's been absolutely unbelievable to think that you're throwing in so much and helped out this channel so well. And so with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is going to be Sausage Gravy Biscuit, who says, did you hear that Germany's Schultz, said he would not allow Leopard 2 tanks until the USA shipped M1?
Yes, I did. And I think that's kind of a little bit of a silly thing to say. And that's really just holding up everything for no good reason. So not really a lot to add there. I just think that was a really goofy thing to say. And also a goofy thing to put German support on, because I thought if the Germans are all for Ukraine, then why are they acting like there's going to be a game of diplomacy here with the United States about if you send something we will, and if you don't we won't? That's just dumb. And also right now we're saying that the Ukrainians logistically cannot support an Abrams, and we really have no way to maintain them right now in Poland if they get sent back. So this just doesn't really make all too much sense. But with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I thank you all so much once again for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure covering this past 24 hours of news, and if you all enjoyed, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and also comment on this stream once it becomes a video, because we run these streams every 24 hours, except for Mondays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time every single night. So you can always count on us to be here. And so with that, I will see you all around. Good night, take care, good luck, and I will see you all tomorrow. And Slava Ukraini! Yeehaw!
Yes. The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Усміхнеться доля, згинуть наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці, запануємо ми, браття, у своїй сторонці. Тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького